Here's Art.
Extraterrestrial radio, actually. Hey there, everybody. It's another Monday, and thus begins another week of Dark Matter. Great to be here, and I really mean that. It is great to be here. I've got good news and bad news. Let's cover the good news first, I think. Number one, we're doing ghost stories, and on Halloween we shall rename the show Spooky Matter, which I think is just great. Credit to Bell Gab. Now, in order to do this properly, I want a little bit of help, and here's the way it goes. I'm hoping that many of you, well, I know already that many of you have ghost stories, and I want good ones, scary ones. The word spooky implies just what I want, spooky. So, if you have a good ghost story, give me only a very brief summary of it, and include your phone number, and on Halloween night, as Spooky Matter commences, we may well call you. That's right. Sort of a roundabout approach, but it'll work. So, just give me a paragraph, sort of an outline of your ghost story, okay? And send it to artbell@artbell.com. Couldn't be easier. artbell@artbell.com. Really soliciting ghost stories and people. And remember now, you have to be by your telephone on the appointed evening. Okay? So, because we'll call you. If you have a good ghost story, we're going to call you. I notice that others are copying that. Come right along. Okay, now, with regard to ghost pictures, again, a grand opportunity for you. In fact, we're going to have a contest. I have decided. It begins tonight. And I want ghost pictures. I want the best you've got. If you have a good ghost photograph, I want you to email it to me. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to let the audience decide, I guess, by reaction, who the winner is. And the winner is going to get a Sirius XM gift certificate. And what I'm striving for here is a year of free service. To Sirius. They haven't said that yet. They said, yes, a gift certificate, and we'll have to confirm if it's a year, but, better be. Should be. I guess shouldn't say better be. Better be. A year. A year would be great, and we'll give it to the person who sends in, that's not a minor thing. A free year of Sirius XM. Yeah, baby. Okay, the government is still closed. They're sort of piecemealing it. Now, I have said that I'm not going to do much politics on this program, but we're going to get to something I am going to do. With regard to our government being closed the way it is, I have gone from amazement to anger. I notice CNN is measuring everybody's anger, and everybody's really angry. And now, finally, to, for me anyway, indifference. I just don't give a damn anymore. But there is something I do care about, and we'll cover that here in a few minutes. I have a lot of reason for you to go to artbell.com tonight. I have two things that you should drag your tail end over there and look at, definitely. Both of them are excellent. One is a YouTube video, we've got it right up there, of Sasquatch. Now, listen to me. This Sasquatch, it claims that Sasquatch sings. I don't know about that, but Sasquatch definitely says brother. Definitely says brother. It's a video, and there purports to be video. I haven't seen much in the video, but the audio is pretty amazing. So if you want to hear Sasquatch at the very least and see where it was recorded, it's up at artbell.com right now. Also, it's pretty good stuff. Also, that was recorded, by the way, it's recent, October 7th. We also have a UFO video recorded, I believe, October 2nd in southeast Michigan. This is good stuff, folks. Now, it was recorded by a security cam, and there is no question about the camera because you can see the glow in the sky from a nearby city, and it never moves. So this is a legit UFO video, unidentified flying object. Now, you may not think much at first. It's slow to start, but you've got to watch the whole thing. This thing will kind of knock your socks off, I'm telling you. So we've got two things at artbell.com. Sasquatch and a UFO video. Both of them have gone up there tonight. And, of course, a lot of other new stuff as well. So get on your computer, get your browser, point it to artbell.com, and take a look. These are both worth going to look at. Don't forget ghost pictures. If you get them, let me see. Do I want them sent directly to me? No. If you get a ghost photograph and want to enter the contest with it, send it to webmaster@artbell.com. That way it goes directly to the man. Webmaster@artbell.com. That's Keith Rowland's address. He is doing artbell.com, did then, is now. And remember, if you've got a guest that you want to have on the program, particularly if you have contact information, please contact Paul Bowman. Just click on his name on the website, artbell.com, same place. And if at all possible, give him contact info. All right. Let's see. What else have I got for you tonight? The infamous 90-minute timeout. We got it fixed for computers here across America, but the poor, tasty Canadians still suffer the 90-minute timeout. Now, the American branch of SiriusXM is talking to their brethren, the tasty Canadians, about possibly instituting the same thing up there. So that's in the works, and I thought I'd tell you tonight. Tasty Canadians, stand by. All right, I have a couple of warnings for you tonight. Warning number one is this program. This is going to be a frightening program that you're going to hear tonight. I really sincerely mean that. It is genuinely frightening. So, two things. One, if this kind of thing scares the out of you, turn it off now. If you have, sensitive people around you who can't take this kind of thing, then turn it off. What you're going to be hearing tonight are the legitimate voices of ghosts, people who have passed on. And I will go through how we know it's legitimate, but it is legitimate and it is scary. So please do me a favor, and if you have anybody sensitive to this kind of thing, get them out of the room. Okay? That's my big warning. And then on the other hand, if you like this kind of thing, turn the lights off and see how long you can take it. Okay, if I got everything out, I think I do. Just one more thing. And here's where I said, well, normally I'm just not going to discuss politics because, frankly, to much of it I have become indifferent. But, and this is really a big but, if those bastards, excuse my French, but I mean it, if they're crazy enough to allow closing the government is one thing, but a United States default, which is coming up rapidly, would be entirely a different ballgame. If they're crazy enough to let that happen, I just don't believe they're going to be. Oh, well, let me tell you what the Treasury Department said. Quoting, a default would be unprecedented, has the potential to be catastrophic. Credit markets could freeze, the value of the dollar could plummet, U.S. interest rates could skyrocket, the negative spillovers could reverberate around the world. Now that's the Treasury Department. And I'm here to tell you that, in my opinion, if they're really crazy enough, and you know, they're being tested now, how crazy are they? Crazy enough to let the government be closed, but would they really let us go to default? Listen to me, this is just my opinion. But in my opinion, if we go into default, what happened in 2008 would be child's play. I'm serious. Child's play. I think it would bring on a depression, a severe depression. Could they be that out of their mind? Yeah, they could be. I don't anticipate it. I don't think they could be that nuts. But we live in strange times. And if I see a default really coming, I will take my marbles and go. And my marbles include what shekels I have that can be converted to another currency, my wife and my daughter, and I'm out of here, back to the Philippines. Because what would follow would be horrible. And I'm serving this up to you this way because I want you to watch too. And protect yourself, protect your family with whatever you can do. A default would be a whole different ballgame. A default means the United States simply defaults on payments. Markets all around the world would crash. Anyway, I don't want to dwell on it. And if I do have to do that, why, I'm sure that Sirius XM can, I've got the ability to do a show from the Philippines. I would hope I wouldn't have to do that. So anyway, I wanted to cover that with you. I know it sounds crazy, but look into it. And we're going to look into a guest on the subject of what would come with a default. As I said, I don't dwell on politics, but this is it's of such a very serious nature that I thought I'd bring it up. All right. On with the show, as it says. A lot of people, a lot of you that I've talked to who've had trouble, and thinking that it's Sirius XM dropping out, well, guess what? In a lot of cases, because I've called people. They email me, oh, Art, it's just no good. It keeps dropping out. Well, guess what? Better than 50% of the time, it's turned out that the reason people are having dropouts is because their internet is too weak. Their Wi-Fi signal is too weak. And so you get dropouts. It's dependent on that Wi-Fi signal, right? Well, if you would like to boost your Wi-Fi signal, I've got it right here. The Super USB Wi-Fi Antenna 3. This thing kicks butt. It's like a little wand with a couple of suction cups on each end, a 15-foot cord. All the electronics, by the way, are in the wand. A 15-foot cord and a USB plug on the end. So all you do is plug this baby into your computer. You've got a 15-foot cord, suction cup it to a window. And when you check, you're going to be seeing Wi-Fi signals that are coming from far, far away. And you're going to go, oh, my goodness. And if you're lucky, you can lock onto one of them. Now, if you're a trucker, there isn't anything better in the world. You pull into a truck stop or something, suction cup it to the window, put it to your computer, And you'll be seeing Wi-Fi signals emanating from all over the place, coffee houses and who knows who, houses and businesses, and you're going to be in business for Wi-Fi. And, of course, if you just have a weak Wi-Fi signal, this is going to lock you in. So, what can I tell you? It is $99.95, and it's worth every penny. Call C. Crane right now and get one on the way. The number is 800-522-8863. Once again, and operators are sitting around right now waiting for you to call. Trust me on this, as everything I sell from C. Crane, it's good stuff. 800-522-8863, the C. Crane Company. I'm Art Bell. He's one of the founding members, as you know, and key spokesperson of the GIS. He's been on the forefront of EVP, that's electronic voice phenomena research, ghost photography, and the use of modern technological devices to capture what goes on in the spirit world for 15 years now. He's done this by being on a number of TV shows, documentaries, and lectures. His knowledge, and at times skeptical nature, have also been important in giving real people comfort or the advice they need to delve deeper into what's going on at their homes or businesses. But most of all, he's done this being a sought-after guest, by being a sought-after guest with his radio partner, Barbara Macbeth. And that's been for 14 years. His perseverance to challenge what we know about the spirit world and people's mindset has made him a pioneer in ghost investigating. People have changed their perception of what is real, ghosts, from the GIS core beliefs. They're just people. His research with Chunga, he's our second guest, Jimmy Chunga, has brought forth new concepts and ideas of what could be possible. Chunga and Brendan have been working together to bring this research to the public for 14 years. We've never heard from Jimmy Chunga, birth name Brett Smith. He's been conducting paranormal investigations all over the globe for the past 22 years and has become one of the nation's leading paranormal experts. We should have heard from him already. He's sensitive and uses this strange ability to aid in his paranormal research. Chunga performs almost all of his investigations with two of the country's most veteran and, frankly, skeptical investigators. First is Brendan Cook, an EVP expert, longtime partner of Chunga's in the Ghost Investigator Society. The second is Ben Hansen, the star of Fact or Faked on the Sci-Fi Network. Aha! Chunga was taught by these two experts to trust and believe in the technology of paranormal investigating, and in turn, Chunga taught them how to trust their own bodies and the instincts they feel. Somehow this odd matchup has produced incredible data in the world of the paranormal. And by the way, Chunga has been a member of the Ghost Investigator Society since 1999, even though we've never heard from him on the air. So there's more, but I'm going to jump to my guests, and the very first thing I'm going to do is say hello there to both of you.
Well, hi. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. Art, this is Chunga, and I'm a longtime fan, and am honored to be here with another outstanding, sterling radio professional like you. I'm so excited about this.
Thank you. Can I call you Jimmy?
Sure, absolutely. You can call me, Chunga. Everybody, all my friends call me Chunga, but if you're more comfortable calling me Jimmy, that's, be my guest.
Definitely, Jimmy. And it's great to have you on, Jimmy. It's a good, free, open format where we have more actual show than commercials. And I assume we also have with us tonight Brendan Cook.
Oh, I'm here. I am here.
Okay, you both sound great, actually.
Wonderful.
I have warned the audience suitably, I hope sufficiently.
Uh-oh.
This is really scary stuff. You guys have not been on the air now for quite some time. Is that correct?
Well, Brendan has not been on the show with you since the old days.
Yeah,
since
2010.
10. I've never had because I have been a radio show host of my own. I have not had the ability to go on the Art Bell show, the Dark Matter show, until now. And let me tell you something. This has been, Brendan and I talking about this for months.
Wow.
We are so excited. Well, I mean, it's Art Bell, for heaven's sakes.
Oh,
when you're a young kid, you're a young radio professional, and you're slaving away. You know what this is like, Art, when you're doing radio for 30 years or however long it is that you've been doing this. You've got guys that you look up to, right? And you were always one of those guys for me. So this is very, very cool, very exciting.
All right, thank you, Jimmy. I've got to ask this. Sue is sending a wormhole message to me, which says, for Brendan, what's up with Barbara? I think it's safe to say everybody wishes her the best and misses her. And also, is your website active or what? And thanks for all your stuff.
No, Barbara is fine. She is just getting a little older. She's not able to do stuff as much as she used to, but
so she's kind of retiring, or not fully.
No,
I guess,
no, I don't want to say retire. I mean, we still do stuff all the time. It's just
she just doesn't do all of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
All of them.
All right, fair enough. People obviously want to know, right?
Yeah.
All right, here's what I want to cover at the beginning of the program, and that is. These are going to be voices from, we believe, ghosts, dead people.
Right.
All right. Everybody wants to know, how are these recorded? Well, in the old days, I know that you all used standard tape machines, right?
Yeah.
You remember the old put it in, and there was actually tape in there that went around?
Yeah.
Okay. And you would take these to places that are allegedly haunted, old buildings, graveyards. I guess you would have a long list, right?
Yeah.
Hospitals, factories, old historical locations, sure.
Okay. And these locations yield more of these electronic voices than normal locations, or do you go there for just effect?
No, well, it's not so much for effect. It's more that's where we're called, and I don't know if that's because people think that is haunted because it's old, or
the question is what you all think. In other words, do you think these locations are more likely to give you something than, somebody's happy little household with 3 kids?
Oh, no. A new home can be, a new location, a recently built building can be every bit as haunted as an old historical location. Easily.
Okay. All right. Very, very interesting. Now, in the past, I've been able to say, look, you guys, including at that time, Barbara, don't make money from this. It's an important point. And that always in the past was the case. Is it still the case that your organization is not in this for the money?
Never. I mean, we've never done this for money. We still haven't written a book. I mean, we brought this up in the past. There are so many publishers that have asked us to write a book about it, and we just say no.
Remember, guys, we're on Sirius XM, 27 million subscribers. A lot of new listeners are listening right now, so I've got to cover a lot of the basics with you. And this is very important, that you're not, gleaning in the bucks from this, shoveling in the money.
No. Now, in the interest of fairness, though, Art, we do have to tell you that sometimes lectures or paranormal events that we're a part of take place where people do pay to go. they do, they do buy a ticket, but when you take a look at renting a facility, or sometimes you have to pay to have access to a location, and then sometimes those locations aren't in a safe part of town. For example, you have to hire security to secure the parking lot and so on and so forth. So sometimes you do incur expenses, and those expenses, obviously, we can't front everything. So some of that cost is passed on from time to time, but there is no one in the GIS that is, and this is one of those things that just infuriates me. It drives Barbara crazy. It drives Brendan crazy, is when people teach classes and then offer up some sort of a diploma system or a certification system. There is, if you're out there and you're listening now, I want to ball up my fist and I want to punch you right in the butt cheek for trying to do such a thing. Because to me, there is nothing more fraudulent than trying to sell a certification in paranormal investigation for money.
It's kind of laughable anyway. I mean, if you had a certificate that said you were a certified paranormal investigator, I don't know what it means.
It means you're a hack, is what it means. It means you got the certification from a hack. It means you're a hack. You're a hack.
Okay. Yeah, I'm kind of with you there. So that part's important. You're not going to get rich at a paranormal conference here or there. And in fact, probably most of the money to go and buy equipment and go to locations and investigate, I would imagine, comes out of your own pockets.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there has been, and I'm serious, thousands of dollars that we have spent. I mean, all of us.
I totally believe you.
Yeah, that is just, we work day jobs to do this.
Or we make Barbara buy it.
Yeah.
Poor Barbara. All right. And now, a number of years ago, I remember urging you to switch from tape recorders to a more modern version of some kind of digital recorder.
Right.
And you did that. And was there any effect? Did you get fewer? Because there's a great argument in the EVP world about this, whether tape is better than digital.
And we did. We got better, much better voice.
Audio? Better audio?
Yeah. When we switched to digital. When we completely went away from all the magnetic stuff.
And we didn't think it was going to work. I remember the conversation.
Yeah.
We did not think it was going to work. We thought you were crazy.
My question is, why did it work?
We don't know.
Right.
That's one of the hardest things as a paranormal investigator, and I'm sure, doing the show as long as you've done this, it seems to me that the more answers you find, the more questions you have. And, sure, we found the digital technology works well. You can actually record EVPs on your cell phone, your smartphone. Why? We don't know. I've got video of light anomalies flying into recording devices, floating into recording devices at the same time you capture an EVP.
You do?
I do.
Wait, stop. You do?
Yeah.
You have that video?
We I don't know that we have it for this week. This is like when a girl comes to your house, Art. We've got to save some stuff. So the next time you have us on, we can make sure you have access to that. But
you can do that because believe me, I've got a website that would be jumping all around right now if you were sending that to the website.
Absolutely. I have. We have the GIS have video, visual evidence data of light orbs, light anomalies, whatever you want to call them. Everybody calls them. It's all the same thing. Everybody has different names for them. Flying into mag lights to turn mag lights on and off. We have them flying in and out of digital recorders at the same time EVPs are recorded. We have them floating into the spirit boxes. There's a lot of controversy about these spirit boxes, these SP7 spirit boxes, and whether or not, this is where Brendan and we've had some heated discussions about this because Brendan has always been of the opinion that, this is nothing more than just radio audio coming through a speaker and people using the power of suggestion, which is admittedly very, very strong, to generate their own opinions about what it is that they're hearing.
What is a spirit box, please?
Oh, the SP7 spirit box is the next generation in EVP technology. And there are probably a lot of people that are listening now that are very, and justifiably so, very skeptical of the data that they get out of the it's called an SB7 spirit box. And what it is, it's kind of a two-stage thing. It does a couple of things. It pumps EM energy out into the atmosphere, and it's a radio scanner. So you'll scan radio frequencies at one radio frequency for every fourth of a second. So 1 second, in the amount of time it takes you, one Mississippi, you have scanned 4 radio frequencies. And you can actually speed it up and slow it down. And what has happened is it's generating EM energy and generating white noise. Spirits have found a way to communicate through the spirit box. And
to slow down, I want to ask you a question.
Sure.
You said it emanates electromagnetic energy.
Yes.
Now, are you saying the scanner transmits the EM?
The unit itself, it pumps out electromagnetic energy. Yeah.
This is kind of along the same lines of the Spiricom that we played.
We'll get to that. We'll get to that. And by the way, EVP itself goes back to, well, how far?
It goes back to Gregorian monks.
I heard that Alexander Graham did some EVP stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
He was working on a device. So was Thomas Edison. They were all working on devices to create something to communicate with the dead. I mean, it's human nature to want to do that.
For some people.
It's human nature.
Not one of those things that everybody longs to do. Hey, I think I'll talk to the dead today. Now, I want to know, let's come back to the spirit box.
Sure.
A scanner itself might emanate a little bit of electronic or EMP of some sort. Not a pulse, actually, but it might radiate a little bit. But generally, it's a receiver, not a transmitter. Do you have another device in there that actually transmits electromagnetic energy?
I wish I had it here with me now so that I could really kind of get into the X's and O's of it with you. What it does do, it's a really, as far as paranormal investigating goes, in many cases it's actually cheaper than a lot of the digital recorders that you can get your hands on. It runs you about $70 to $80 depending on where you buy it, and operates like a very simple portable transistor radio. Now, they've done something to it. The extent or the amount of electromagnetic energy that it pumps out into the atmosphere, with respect to you and your listeners, I wouldn't want to speculate. I honestly don't know just exactly how much it does put out into the atmosphere, but what it does do is it does put some electromagnetic energy into the atmosphere and scans and generates white noise at the same time. And
somebody sells these things or what?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can Art, you can go grab one in your next commercial break. Go pull up Amazon and you can go order one. Yeah, they're readily available.
And I'm sorry, what are they called again, please?
It's the SB is in Bravo, S is in Sam, B is in Bravo, number 7, SB7 Spirit Box, and it's from
I'm not sure the manufacturer.
ITC or something.
Doesn't matter. They'll find it. We'll find it. The SB Sugar 7 Spirit Box. Huh.
Exactly.
And all right, so there's a scanner in there.
Yep.
Looking at 4 frequencies every second.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do it on AM or FM bandwidth.
Okay, fine. And how are you recording voices?
You're not recording on the actual unit, so you have to use it in concert with a video camera or a digital recorder, and it works very much like a typical session in which you would take your digital recorder and ask questions and then play your digital recorder back later. The difference is there's a lot more noise involved. Some people don't like it because it's pretty noisy. A lot of people attach external speakers to it, and then they ask a question, and the response, if there's any paranormal activity in the area, is immediate. You don't have to play your tape back. You don't have to spend hours hunched over a computer listening. You can hear the voices back immediately. And the cool thing about this is that if you were getting audio from one sweep, you would know it. you can get full sentences, you can get names, you can get intelligent responses from the other side, and you can hear the radio frequencies sweeping underneath the voices.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
wow.
It's like very intense.
Perfect example. We did an investigation at the mausoleum that we always used to talk about.
Right.
And we used this device, and the voice was saying, because we were all kind of being loud. We had a bunch of people there.
Yeah, we had about 7-8 people there with us.
Yeah, exactly, which is more than we normally have. And the voice just simply said, "Be quiet." That was it. I mean, on this device, it just said, "Be quiet." And it's a contextual thing. You know, if it was random, I could understand that. But when it's contextual like that, and it has to do with what you're dealing with and, you know, what's happening, that's...
Art, Brendan was very, as you know, you've had Brendan on, Brendan and Barbara for years. Brendan is very skeptical. When I was learning how to do this, I trained primarily under Barbara.
I'm a little skeptical too.
Yeah, and that's great. And you should.
Let me tell you why. If you've got what amounts to a scanner in there,
mm-hmm.
then you're listening to radio frequencies.
Correct.
And if even if it's just white noise, well, if you should suddenly get a voice, that could come from, I don't know, a shortwave broadcast station, could come from me. Yeah. I'm on the air all the time.
Exactly.
On shortwave.
And
so,
how many years have we brought that up where it's, you know, people with EVP have said, okay, it's baby monitors. It's, I mean, how many
whatever.
Years? Yeah.
Whatever.
Exactly.
So
and
that's why I'm skeptical.
Yeah, and I'm skeptical as well. It's just when it's in context like that, and it happens over and over, is where it's...
The last time Brendan and I were together in the mausoleum, we were talking to a husband and wife couple, mm-hmm. And we were standing next to their vaults in the mausoleum, and we were getting intelligent responses. They were telling us their names. They were telling us the year and date that they died, you know, the exact date and year that they died. At one point, they had a picture of the couple on their vault. As they were buried together.
Yeah, where the vault is.
And you remember, Brendan, I said, Jake, you and your wife are a beautiful couple, and you know, the voice of an old man came through the radio and said, "Yes, I know." Very intelligent responses. And if, again, the thing that you want to listen for so carefully with these spirit box sessions are the voices coming through as the radio is sweeping underneath? Does the voice change? Does it change? Does it go male to female, for example? Does it change in age from young to old? Now, it's been our finding, and Brendan is a bit of a convert to this, because he's seen it in action. And it's blown us all away because the voices are consistent as the radio is sweeping underneath.
Yes, all right. A quick question for you, and you may not be able to answer, but typically what frequencies do you scan?
It scans the entire band. So it will start at one end, you know, at 88 point whatever, and then scan all the way up to 107.9.
That's the FM band.
Either or. You can also scan on the AM band. We've also had a lot of luck in locations that are underground.
Yeah, but you're going to hear FM stations, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If you scan FM, you're going to hear FM stations.
You are, but it's only for a fourth of a second. Now, think for a moment how quickly, you know, Art Bell, that's what, a second and a half? In that amount of time, you should hear 4 to 5 radio sweeps underneath that. You'll hear them. In other
words, these voices come over
Absolutely.
the scanning frequencies.
Yes,
I see.
Yeah.
All right. I still don't like it as well as going in with a recorder.
Many don't.
And a microphone.
Which is, I mean, all the voices that we brought tonight, none of them are from this.
From the spirit box?
This is what Chunga was talking about before, Jimmy was talking about before, that, you know, we'll save that for later because
it's almost a whole show on its own.
Yeah.
Call him Jimmy. I mean, saying Chunga. Chunga sounds like somebody you bring with you when you want to collect on a loan that you've been having trouble with, you know?
Absolutely. And
all right, Chunga, break his leg.
If you ever need somebody for that, give me a call.
So what we're going to hear tonight, this comes from digital recorders.
Yes.
With only a microphone hooked up, or in some cases, no mic. Have you experimented both ways?
Well, yeah, and actually, some of the ones that you're going to hear are not even from digital. I mean, they are from
old analog.
Like,
yeah.
no,
Really?
They're not even analog. They're reel-to-reel recorders.
Yeah.
I mean, they're that bad.
Yeah, I know you guys have been doing this a long time.
Yeah.
I guess here comes a question. Well, you know what? I have to take a break. You guys relax for a moment, and we'll be right back to you. We're going to be playing it, and it is interesting, I must say. And actually, they recommend scanning from 76 megahertz to 87.9, so that really does keep it out of the FM band. And it has what's called a proprietary white noise enhancement. And really, there have been a lot of ghost investigations conducted by people using white noise. That's just, like you turn on a radio to no radio station and you just get noise, right? That's white noise. Or TV, white noise. And apparitions and EVPs have been all around white noise. There was a movie called White Noise, you may recall. Okay, gentlemen, welcome back.
Hey, good to be here.
So it is very interesting. I'm skeptical, but that's not what we're talking about anyway tonight. It's just interesting. You guys don't sell the SB7.
No.
Right?
Oh, heavens, no. No, we don't sell anything.
All right. Okay, good.
No, I mean, like I said before, we have had offers to sell a million things, and
I bet you
don't
have.
do it. I don't remember if you recall years ago. When we were still using the old magnetic tapes, there was somebody that claimed we were selling things for Sony, I believe.
There was like a product endorsement.
Yeah, exactly. We were.
Yeah.
We were.
You may have mentioned that you were using a Sony. I asked you what you were using. That's what it was.
Yeah, and people were saying, is this what you're selling? So, I mean, people are always going to be skeptical about this.
I know. I'm not skeptical. It's why you've been on the air with me for years, because I'm not skeptical. I'm convinced that these voices are from the other side. I am absolutely convinced, and I don't convince easily. So I'm a believer. Now, we're about to turn and actually play some of these, so I'm telling you folks, be careful. This will, as it adds up through the evening, be very frightening. I think, for me, hearing voices from the dead is genuinely, profoundly frightening. It actually frightens me. Now, you guys can give me your take on it. Does it ever frighten you, or are you so used to it now that you just take it in stride?
Yeah, it's one of those things you never really get used to. I mean, you do in the fact that there is a voice there. Obviously, the first voice that we ever recorded was so shocking, and because, as I've said, I was so much of a skeptic that I never thought this would work. So when I recorded a child saying something, how did that happen? And racking my brain trying to figure it out. So you never really get used to it, but at the same time, it's kind of, okay, there's going to be something there at some point. So
hearing a child's voice is particularly upsetting, actually.
Yeah, the children are, I don't want to say horrible, but they are.
Oh, no, I think they're horrible. I don't think they're kids. Yeah, that's another thing where Brendan and I kind of go back
Seriously?
and forth. No.
What do you think they are?
Well, in order to believe, in order to believe that you are getting a voice from the other side, you kind of have to believe in a higher power, correct? I mean, that's,
yes.
In order to believe in the relevance of that, then you would have to believe in God or some sort of higher deity. Okay. Well, it's hard for me to come to grips or get my arms around the fact that if you've got some all-knowing, all-loving, omnipresent, benevolent entity, that entity would then, that God, that deity, whatever you want to call it, would then allow an innocent, harmless child to wander lost as a spirit on earth.
I am so with you.
I really struggle with that, and I'm really I'm terrified of children's voices. I'm legitimate. I get scared when we capture them because I think it's something else. People, by their very nature, it's human nature to want to help the defenseless. It's human nature to root for the underdog. It's human nature to want to engage with someone in need. So if there's someone that wants to deliver harm or bad energy or hurt onto somebody that is living, what better way than to get their guard down? What better way than to put them in a different frame of mind and change them from a defensive nature to a position of I'm here to help you.
Sure. And here's another question for you, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Obviously, tonight, as people hear these voices, some of them, very few, are happy. Many are not happy. Many are hard to understand in terms of, what they're saying. In other words, as people listen to these, they're trying to discern what is the nature of the other side? What's it like after you die? And some of these that they're going to hear are not helpful in feeling warm and fuzzy about when that time comes.
Yeah. No, and you're absolutely correct. I mean, the other side, and doing this for as many years as we have, we got into this trying to figure out what the other side was.
Of course, that's the ultimate question, right?
And this hasn't helped, which is sad.
I would even argue that we actually know less now than we did before. We're more confused now.
All right. Well, then here comes a big one, and maybe the last one before we get going. But I would like to know your opinion, having done this for years and years and years and years, about whether these are people that we're hearing from that are in heaven, or these are people that we're hearing from that have died but are on Earth, stuck on Earth for some period of time? Or in some cases, are we hearing from people that are burning?
I hate to answer it this way, but honestly, I think it's everything. I think, judging by some of the voices, and again, context is the biggest part of this. Context is everything.
How relevant are the answers to the question?
Exactly. And I would say that we have a little bit of we've recorded voices from everything. And how we do this, I'm not sure how it works, but I do believe we have recorded voices from hell. I believe we have recorded voices from people that have been stuck here.
Recorded voices from things that have never been human and have never had a body.
Exactly.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
That's a big one.
It's terrifying.
So, you would call those things what?
Demons. I don't know. It may sound kind of schmaltzy or kind of corny.
I'll tell you, Barbara never would have said that.
There were many times where Barbara had a stick at the ready, to punish me for even suggesting something like that. But the truth is that
I ran into that with her too, by the way.
Oh, that's a relief actually, because I thought it was just me. Being the guy who studied directly under her for a decade, that woman has forgotten more about this than most of us will ever know. But she was very spiritual and very mystical and had a very different way of doing this than Brendan has.
Let us not speak of her in the past. She is still around.
We're eulogizing her, right?
Yeah, she's still around.
She's great.
Probably
she's
kicking
fine.
the radio right now, but she's still around. So you actually think, some of these you believe, and I do too. I must say, I think I've heard EVPs from demons. I really believe that, or either that, or somebody really screwing with you.
Right. Well, we've got some things here tonight that Brendan and I have recorded and have had sent to us over the years. a culmination of the three that will really give you pause, really going to make your blood run cold. One of these, well, more than one of these, several of these, made me physically nauseous when I heard them.
Right. That's been my experience in past shows, and hence my warning to the audience. All right, let's get underway. I had to do it, and so I did listen to the first one. I thought it was not particularly good, but let me reevaluate as I listen. Now, what's really cool is that we're on Sirius XM, and people are getting really good signals, so they're not straining to hear this through the static of an AM station 600 miles away.
Right.
They're going to be hearing it very clearly. So tell me about number one, and then we'll take off here and do it.
All right. So in this one, you remember years ago the mausoleum that we always talked about. That
Yes.
I mean, we have done this mausoleum investigation, I would say, over 150 times, and we just barely went back. What was it, 2 weeks ago?
About 2 weeks ago.
About 2 weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
And you actually hear the owner of the mausoleum, his wife, says that poor girl is going to be terrified. And she's referring to this girl that we had brought. It's her first ghost investigation she's ever done. And the mausoleum, honestly, for anybody who hasn't been there or hasn't ever done this, is one of the scariest places to ever go. I mean, whether you're doing ghost stuff or not, I mean, it's just to be there is terrifying.
Okay.
So you hear that woman say that poor girl is going to be terrified, and then an EVP says, Ben, come over here. And the EVP is almost androgynous. It's not
male or female. We can't really tell.
To me, it doesn't even sound male or female. It just sounds like a voice. And here's the contextual thing we were talking about. Ben, which we talked about earlier in the show, Ben Hansen from Sci-Fi's Fact or Faked, was about to show up at this investigation. He hadn't come yet.
Oh,
he was actually on the parking lot, roughly this time.
All right. All right, here it comes. Let's all listen. Number one. Here we go. I think. Come on, number one. Play.
That poor girl's going to be terrified.
All right, I take it back. It was pretty clear to me. Ben, come over here, I think. Ben, come over here is what it sounds like. Now, you serve these up as we go on here, so everybody knows. It's being repeated 3 times. And I think you increase the audio in the third version, or how does that work?
Well, in the last 2, we will amplify it, but that's about it. So what we do is we play everything in context with the investigator speaking if there's one, or whoever, just so you kind of understand what's going on at the time.
All right, one other thing. When you're on site, in the mausoleum or anywhere else, you are extra careful about who's around so you don't pick up a random voice. Am I correct?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we control everything that we do. We talked about this, I think, I don't know, it was easily years ago where we were doing the mausoleum and you would ask the same question and we said, we make sure to lock the place. We actually hired police at one point to come out and make sure that nobody else is around.
All right, here it is one more time. Everybody listen carefully. The part that is the voice from elsewhere is Ben, come over here, and it's pretty clear.
That poor girl's going to be terrified.
It is pretty weird to imagine that's a voice from the other side. And it was pretty loud, too. And also it had a kind of a hollow sound like you would imagine an audio would have in a mausoleum.
It does.
There's a bit of an echo to it.
Here's the other thing. You know, we talked about the spirit box and all that earlier.
Right.
That mausoleum is completely encased in marble. You don't get radio reception in there at all.
I know, but the hollow sound that we heard would suggest that it was actual audio
Exactly.
as opposed to something sent straight to a recorder.
Exactly, and I wasn't so much referring to the spirit box as I was to a lot of people's complaints with EVP is that these are radio transmissions that you're picking up. You are not picking up.
No, I don't see that. That's why I'm much more interested in the recorders that have absolutely nothing on them and then have this on them than I am in the spirit box. It's something I'd like to investigate, but higher doubts than what we're doing here. This is awesome.
Right.
You guys are pretty sure. I mean, really, you're sure nobody said that?
Oh, yeah. We're absolutely
You know,
sure.
here's the hardest thing, Art. The only thing that you have to go by with something like this is us and our credibility and telling you that, you know, no. And in my opinion, again, it goes back to the spirit box. Spirit box is a little bit different because you'll have it's almost like a second stage recording where you'll hear the people in the room, you'll get the intelligent response, you can clearly tell that it's coming through the spirit box and isn't somebody else that's in the room. Again, I'm not a proponent one over the other. It's just two different means to an end. It's just two different tools in your toolbox. With this particular EVP, there were two females that were in the kind of the entryway area of the mausoleum in the chapel area. Everyone else was at the very, very far end, which is thousands of square feet away, not within earshot. And there were no male voices around, and there were two females around. The only way to give you more context at that point is to play longer clips so that you can hear the audio of the people walking up the stairs, walking into the room, having a conversation. You know what I mean?
Yes, this needs to be said. These EVPs, folks, are found by taking the recorder to the mausoleum or wherever you take it, and then going home and listening very carefully to hours of tape, hour upon hour upon hour of investigation to find the EVPs. The spirit box, on the other hand, is designed to give you immediate feedback, which is scary as hell. If you get a contemporary comment thrown back at you, from having asked some sort of question, that's really frightening. So I'm not going to the spirit box right now. I'm doubtful of the spirit box. I'm skeptical.
It's one thing when you think you may be getting a radio frequency, but when you have, the last investigation Brendan and I were on, we were with a reporter from a TV station here that wanted to cover this. Right. And we turned the spirit box on, and the two first words that came out of the spirit box was the C word and the B word and the reporter's name. And there's nobody on the radio that is going to be using profanity and using, especially really hard profanity.
Well, you haven't listened to XM much, huh?
That's terrestrial radio. You're not going to get that.
Yeah, that's correct. Terrestrial radio, you're not. The other thing that makes me skeptical about the spirit box, and sorry, but I've got to do this.
Sure.
If somebody wanted to screw with you.
Yeah.
I mean, all you need is a little transmitter in the right right and it would be so easy.
Oh, yeah.
So easy.
Yeah.
But the way these recordings are done, I understand why go to the spirit box. If you're in a legitimate investigation, of course you're going to want contemporary responses. But what I like about what we're hearing tonight is that there's no possibility of any of that.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, they're hard to get. EVPs are hard to get. You got to go home. You got to listen to hours and hours and hours of stuff to get it.
Jimmy said, I mean, it's tedious. It is so tedious. And that's why
I get it.
Include any of the Spirit Box stuff, because the Spirit Box is simply a tool. That's it.
No, I get it. And it would be the next logical place to go for you investigators. But when you present something to a national audience, or international audience, actually, like now, trust me, what you're playing for them is much more credible, is the word. Let's go to number 2.
All right, so number 2. Now, Brendan, this was
the Boston funeral home that we did.
This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And you're going to hear Brendan's voice. You're going to hear him. And Brendan's going to say, can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are, or something to that effect. He says, can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are? Asks a question. And again, you're going to go back to the child EVP, which, it stops my heart every time we capture one of these. The child says, I need you. You need to hide me. Really? Now, nobody heard this at the time, obviously.
And again, this is a funeral home, like in the middle of the night. There's no kids.
I hear you. All right, here comes number 2.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
Wow. Okay, that's clearly a child. No question about it, a child. And you're saying that he says, I need you, you need to hide me.
Well, and we should probably talk about this.
All right, let's talk in one moment. I want to do it once more. I want people really to hear this, okay?
Yeah.
Then we'll talk about it. Here we go.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
You know what I think it says?
What's that?
I need you. You need to hang me.
What?
Well, you bring up an interesting point here, Art, because every time we do one of these sessions where we're going through hours of tape, it's pizzas and snacks and people people sitting in a room and then arguing and offering up their own interpretations. And Brendan and Barbara would never agree. Ever.
I know Barbara would.
It came down to me, it came down to me splitting them up, several different times.
All right, sorry about this, folks, but one more time. This time, see if you hear you need to hang me. Here we go.
Can you guys tell me what you like to do where you are?
I'm sorry, guys. That's what I'm hearing.
Again, interpretive, I can hear that as well.
Yeah.
It's all about context again.
Well, it's not even so much that. It's what I was saying before. This is subjective. What I was trying to get to before is these are subjective. When we tell you what these are about to say, it's human nature. You're going to listen for that. It's the Rorschach test.
The power of suggestion again.
Well, one thing's for darn sure, that's a child.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key point. We would love to know nothing more than what exactly that voice is saying, but the key is there's a child's voice there that shouldn't be
there.
It shouldn't exist.
It's in the middle of a mausoleum, right?
No, that was a...
No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, that was in a Boston funeral home.
Okay. Good. But still, a Boston funeral home. Probably late at night, I imagine.
Good. But
yeah, it's not exactly the ball crawl at McDonald's,
Oh, you can talk light about that. All right, hang loose, guys. We're going to take a break here.
Thanks for having us.
You're very welcome. I know that this is easier for you, but it scares me. We're going to move on now to number 3. And where was this done?
Okay, so this was at the same Boston funeral home. It was that same night, but it was hours later. And you remember the last voice was a kid.
I do.
Okay, here's the thing that scares me, and this is where Jimmy and I think we talk about this quite a bit on are these actually kids, or are they demons, or are they trying to pretend they're kids? Because you're going to hear me ask, can you describe what it's like where you're at? Which is a common question that I ask, because that's why we're doing this. I mean,
we're trying to find out what's there.
What's the nature of the other side?
Of course.
So, can you describe what it's like where you're at? And then this child says, I saw something move. There might be monsters over there. Which is sad.
Can you describe what it's like where you're at?
I saw something move. There might be monsters.
Wow.
I saw something move.
Okay, the first part where the child says, I saw something move, that's kind of hard to hear.
Yeah, it's a little tough. That part is, I mean, that's, again, this goes back to what we said. It's a consensus between everybody that listens to this, 100 times and says, okay, that's what it says. But the last part
is very clear. And it also, I'm sorry to say, really does sound like something a child would say. There might be monsters over there.
Exactly. And in the context, is that not the most disturbing thing that you have?
It's very disturbing. Yes. Because that is what a child would say.
Yeah.
And you're sure. And you swear on a stack of Bibles there was no child anywhere near this recording.
In a funeral home.
In the middle of the night.
In Boston. Yeah. No. There was no.
All right. One more time. Here we go.
Can you describe what it's like where you're at?
I saw something move. There might be monsters. I saw something move. There might be monsters. I saw something move. There might be monsters.
Man, that's really clear. That's too clear.
I want to say wrong. And like Jimmy brought up earlier, it's one of those things where we did this to get answers, and we've
I understand. I understand. I just don't know what answers we're getting, and I don't know if I like them. First of all, by number, I don't think that many children die compared to adults to justify the percentage of child EVPs you get. Right. What do you think?
And that's the thing.
Well,
what
you think about child mortality through history in America. Child mortality is not what it used to be, but back in the 16, 17, 1800s, here on this continent, child mortality was considerably higher. Just because we're hearing a child's voice doesn't mean it's of a recently deceased child. It could be that child could be could have died hundreds of years ago.
It's true. The ghost phenomena, gentlemen, is it local? I ask this because what we're hearing, obviously, is English. One would imagine that, children and adults are dying all over the world. You don't have to imagine that. You know that. So we're not hearing French, German, Spanish,
And here's
Chinese.
the thing. We're not simply because we're not putting it on the radio. If you go to our site, there are, I would say, at least 30 voices that are in other languages. I mean, we've got everything from Polish to Native American to German to Spanish. I mean, and it's just...
Do you wonder if these are foreign people who passed on here, or they're foreign people who came here after passing on?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you'd have to wonder that. But to give you a perfect example of what I'm thinking of, we were investigating an old pioneer museum. And, you know, there's a common knowledge among people that do this that it's not just places that are haunted. It's people. It's artifacts. It's things like that. In this pioneer museum, it was like, it's hard to describe, but we got this overwhelming sense of this Native American woman and then this Polish woman. And I don't feel anything ever when we do this, but we got this sense of like burning sausage, which you'd associate with Polish. And yeah, so when we listened to our recordings, we had this Polish woman singing some song that we've never heard of. I mean, and this is contemporary, completely contemporary information.
Right.
She's singing this Christmas song that nobody's ever heard in our group. And then I think we played it on your show, actually, and then we had a response from somebody giving us the translation.
Oh, I remember that.
Yeah, and we looked it up, and that was it. I mean, that was what happened. I mean, that's exactly what that woman was saying.
All right, here's something else that I want to get out to the audience, and that is that although you are experts at doing this because you've been doing it for so long, there's nothing in the world that says whoever's listening right now, if they don't believe this, is welcome to go get a recorder, go to a site like this if you have the cojones for it, and do some hours of questioning and talking and see if you get a response yourself. Well, you know what? I've said this in years past. People have said, okay, I take the challenge. I'm going out, and they come back with EVPs that they send to me.
Yeah, exactly. And you're right. There is nothing. You know, we're not selling anything again.
Right.
We're not. We've considered this as show and tell. That's what we do. We
show and scare, maybe,
for our own benefit, and then we show people, and they can believe what they want. And then we say, you know what? Go out and get a recorder and
do it yourself. Yeah, that's right.
And that's one of those things that's so frustrating to me about people that want to have, they want to offer up, certification or diplomas, because anyone can grab an analog cassette tape recorder and go out and try this. You know, we at the GIS, we don't recommend you do it in your own home. That's something we recommend you stay far away from. However, it does not require.
Why?
Well, you know, there's a lot of reasons for this, Art.
Well, it's one of those things where, and again, we talked about this before, if we feel you're going to be scared by what we might find, when people call us and say, come into the home and, do an investigation, here's what's going on, our first question is always, if what we find or if what we present to you is going to scare you, what would you do? And if their response is, I don't think I could live here anymore, guess what? We can't do it.
Very good point. Very good point. All right, number 4, please. Where?
Number 4, we have spent years investigating a location which Brendan and Barbara have mentioned to you before, Art, called the Exchange Building.
Okay.
Now we have the Exchange Building here in town. It's a stock exchange. Stock as in animals, cattle, pigs.
Oh.
Not stocks as in bonds and pieces of paper.
Okay.
This was an old building that was built in the 1920s, in which ranchers would come into town, or it was earlier than the 1920s, wasn't it, Brendan? It was the early teens or something.
Yeah, it was.
It's very, very old, and the building has been a variety of things in its history. It's been an institution for the mentally ill. I'm trying to be as politically correct as I can. It was an insane asylum at one point. It's also been a drug rehab center, and it's been a hospital, and it's been a variety of things. We capture this EVP sometimes when we do investigations, particularly the Exchange Building. We'll just set up condenser microphones or digital tape recorders or, digital recorders of various types, and then we'll leave the building. So there's no contamination, not even our footsteps can be heard. And in this track, you're going to hear a woman she sounds like she's got an accent. It's possibly a Hispanic accent. Just out of nowhere. Again, there's no context to this, Art. There's nobody talking. No one is asking a question. It's just, a lot of silence. And then all of a sudden you'll hear a female voice say, "Put that thing in his eyes," which is kind of ominous sounding. Yeah, let's take a listen.
Yeah, all right. Here we go. Number 4.
Put that thing in his eyes.
Wow.
Put that thing in his eyes.
Oh, wow. That is,
there was just silence. There was no,
that's very concerning. Yeah, that's very concerning. That's very clear. I'm not sure I hear an accent. It's quite clear. And,
really? You don't hear any accent at all?
I don't. Maybe somebody else does. We're about to do it again so people can listen. But this one has no context. It just showed up on the recorder, and it's awfully clear. Listen again.
Put that thing in his eyes. Put that thing in his eyes. Put that thing in his eyes.
Okay, you mentioned this was an exchange, right? Not a slaughterhouse.
No. But the thing that is weird about that is that she does have kind of a medicinal, clinical, matter-of-fact kind of tone in her voice, almost like she's performing a procedure.
I'll give you that. Sure.
But what the context of it, we have no clue. We don't know.
Also, you would have to. Well, you don't know, but you would have to wonder. Put that thing in his eyes. On the other side. Well, we don't know what's on the other side. We don't know if we have eyes, do we?
Yeah. Well, and that's the problem.
Again, more questions.
That's
than
one
answers.
of the voices that we had got. I think. Honestly, out of all the voices we've recorded, one of the most disturbing that we ever recorded was a voice that said plastic eyes.
In the mausoleum. It was in the mausoleum.
Exactly. And it was a contemporary information thing. In other words, it was a voice that we had no idea what that meant until we asked somebody and found out. And, this voice says plastic eyes, and then we go to the mortician and ask, does plastic eyes mean anything to you? And he's like, yeah, well, we put plastic eyes in the bodies. I mean, that's something we would never have known.
I didn't even know that. Is that standard practice?
Apparently, we didn't know.
Yeah.
But after embalming, so that when you go to the viewing, so that the body retains its
natural
appearance.
Form.
Yeah. All right. Onward we go. Number 5, please.
Okay, so this one we're going to go out of the Exchange Building, and we're going now into a private residence that we actually did just about a month ago.
Right.
And there was, I don't want to say demonic, but that's kind of what it was. I mean, we had a lot.
You got to remember, Art, Brendan is the skeptic. He'll tell all of your millions of listeners that, that he doesn't feel a thing. But as somebody that's empathic and somebody that works with him all the time, he feels things regularly. This was a very dark house. Still is a very dark house. This poor family, I'm reluctant to even talk about it, has been chased to 3 different homes. over the past 10 years, and whatever this thing is keeps following them. And we're still investigating this. As we're talking to you now, an investigation is ongoing with this poor family.
Did they invite you specifically?
Oh, yeah. They didn't even invite us. They begged. Us.
And we kept telling them no, and they wouldn't let up because, typically, what we tell people is that when you're dealing with something that's demonic in nature, or what is potentially demonic in nature, that's never been human and all it wants to do is hurt, the fun times of ghost investigating are over. This is not something you mess with, you run. And that's all you do. You don't mess with it.
You're telling me this family has moved 10 times?
No, 3 times over 10 years.
3 times over 10 years, and they've been chased out of their other homes.
Yes.
Yeah.
And it's attached to specifically the daughter.
And how do you know
the
that?
daughter is grown, by the way, not a little girl, but a woman in her early 30s.
Right.
And how do you know it's attached to her?
Do you want to explain this, or I don't know if I should.
I'll be as vague as I can without violating the privacy of the family. The father of the family suffered a violent death. Was found out on the street with a bullet in his head. Police ruled it a suicide. They don't feel it's a suicide. They said he had, no pun intended, he had some personal demons. And shortly after his death, that's when the paranormal problems started happening with the family. They thought it was attached to the house they were in. So they moved, and it kept happening. And now they're in a new location. The kids are, the daughter of the man who was killed, she has her own children now. And they're all mortified in this house. I have 2 hours of interviews of these people just sobbing and begging for help. And, Brendan was in the master bedroom of, where this woman sleeps, and had objects thrown at him. And this is the real giveaway here. Brendan, who you've known for years, Art, came to me and said, I want to get the hell out of here.
I did, and here's the reason. Because and we've talked about this, and we can talk about it later. EVP is not normally heard at the time. I mean, it's not, when you record this, it's not normally heard. You go back and you listen.
It's recorded on frequencies the ear can't.
Yeah, you don't hear it in real time. In other words.
Exactly. No. You listen to hours of tape, and then you might get one word, and that's it.
Right.
So when we were in this house, I mean, I can count on 2 fingers how many times I've heard an actual audible voice. And we're sitting in this house. We're conducting interviews. Jimmy had taken the daughter outside to do an interview. I had I think it was the mother in the living room doing an interview with her. And I'm doing the interview, and all of a sudden I just hear non serviam, which, I grew up Catholic, so I know what that means.
That's Latin.
I will not serve.
Okay.
Which that absolutely,
You talk about hearing EVP in different languages. We become really terrified when you start hearing EVP in Latin, which is a dead language.
Sure.
People don't know it, especially in the United States. And, unless you're a devout Catholic, you don't really know much of it at all. And, when we've got this skeptic in our group that comes running to me and says, hey, we got to get the hell out of here because, and Brendan, the term for people who don't know, I will not serve was said by, what? I will not serve in Latin was said
to our angel.
Well, it was said by Satan.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah. Sorry.
I was trying to lead you into that, Brendan. Brendan was ready for a smoke. Because he said, I'm done. Where's my Dunkin' Donuts?
Let's play it. This is done in the private home you just heard about. Listen carefully. What you're going to hear is hate you. Is that correct, guys?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here it comes. Ugh. Oh, that is weird. My God, that's weird.
Yeah, it's like really scary.
I do hear
out.
the hate you. Very drawn out, with a kind of a thing at the end.
And it's breathy. I mean, it's almost like whistly, kind of like just wheezing.
And if you listen carefully, you can sense, at least I sense, there is absolutely not one redeeming tone in that EVP. I mean, not one good.
I hear nothing redeeming.
It's
nothing.
just a pure evil.
Yeah. I'm hearing a little breakup on your phones that may be coming from who knows what.
That's probably me moving around. Sorry.
Really? Please stay close to the base units if you're on a portable. Please.
Absolutely. I apologize.
Okay. That's what happens. Here it is one more time. Listen very carefully. It's hate you with a little thing at the end, and it's very drawn out. So here. Yuck.
That's pretty grim.
Here it is again. If I was in an 18-wheeler in the middle of the night driving across the country and I heard that, I would be a mess, an absolute mess. Gentlemen, hold on. EVP, the G. They try their best, and they're good for what they are, but look here. You need to get the Senta. I better learn to say that correctly. The Senta Ally speaker, Bluetooth speaker. Now, this is a device that's about 9 inches in length. It's oval cylinder shaped, and it's a speaker. It's very small. It's lightweight. It's one of the best speakers for the human voice and great quality audio for playing your favorite music. That's right. It's great for music. So here's what you do. You receive the Ally when you order it. Yes, you have to pony up $69.95. But when you get it, you hook it up by Bluetooth in about 5 seconds to your smartphone, and every song that you play on your smartphone comes out of the Sentinel, which has batteries in it that last for 10 hours, and it sounds like a, Radio City Music Hall presentation. I mean, it's really good. This device is amazing. Simply out of this world. So Bluetooth hookup means you can hook it up to anything you want that has Bluetooth. As in your iPad, as in your iPhone, or the equivalent on the other side, whatever. Doesn't matter. Includes an FM radio inside. It has all kinds of inputs and outputs. And it's $69.95. How do you get that kind of technology for that kind of money? I don't know. C. Crane does it, though. You can order one. Trust me, get one. Then everybody you show it to, all your friends will go, I want one. That's simple. You can order now. Operators are sitting around waiting. The number's 800-522-8863. That's 800-522-8863. And if you want to visit them online and actually see it, just go to ccrane.com. That's ccrane.com. Also available at amazon.com. All right, here come my guests again, Brendan Cook and Jimmy Chunga. Welcome back, gentlemen. We've got a lot of territory to cover, and I think we're up to number 6, right?
We are, and this is one of the EVPs that we brought for you tonight, Art. That is, frankly, it's really disturbing. We've played this for people and had them cry. because it's just so disturbing. It comes from, we actually did not record this. And in fairness, we got to tell you, look, because it didn't come from us, its credibility is questioned by everyone in the GIS, simply because we didn't do it. We did not record this. However, it was sent to us by a family in Texas, who was being menaced, wanted our help, and was being menaced, had a little boy in the family that said there was something that was menacing him, hurting him, being mean to him, and attacking him in the middle of the night.
Right.
And the family wouldn't listen to him, and, as adults do, as we've all done, kind of dismissed this kid and said, no. Well, he wouldn't let up, and so the dad finally just said, okay, fine, I'm going to patronize this kid and just, placate him, give him what he wants. So he picks up his video camera and says, okay, give me a tour of your room. Show me around your room. Where does this thing come from?
Sure.
And you'll hear in this EVP, you'll hear this little boy that's being attacked by this evil entity saying, this is my baseball glove. This is, he's kind of, you'll hear him directing him around the room, and then you'll see this is the TV. That's where he comes out of. And then the little boy sees movement on the TV that's off. You'll hear him, reference the movement on the TV. And then you'll hear the demon say, I am your worst enemy. I watch you while you sleep.
Oh, God. All right, here we go.
Okay.
Hey, look, my baseball glove. No, my old one.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen, Sean. But it's not there anymore.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen.
Ay.
And of course, the family can't hear it. And the thing that really sticks with me is that horrible growl at the end of that kid.
Yeah, what do you mean the family can't hear it? What do you mean?
They don't hear the demon speaking, as the little boy doesn't hear it, the dad doesn't hear it.
Yeah, when this happened, I mean, it goes back to what we were saying about EVP. They're not hearing any of this. And then can you imagine what a shock that is to go back and hear it?
And the little boy says, I saw something move on the screen, but it's not there anymore, as the EVP is coming in.
Well,
I don't like anything that says I watch you sleep.
Yeah.
Creepy. All right, one more time. Listen, everybody, very carefully. I'm your worst enemy. I watch you sleep. See if you can hear it.
Hey, look, my baseball glove. No, my old one.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen, Sean. But it's not there anymore.
Listen for the growl.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen.
The worst enemy. Watch you sleep.
I just saw something move on the screen.
Oh, what's interesting about that is if that had been faked, the little boy would not have been speaking over the EVP.
Very true. Right. Very true.
Because he had no idea he was speaking over the EVP.
Correct. And it's also the voice that you're hearing. It's been our experience. We've found that when you're dealing with things that have never been human, that have never inhabited a human body, that voice is very consistent with, that kind of timbre and tone is very consistent with other entities that we've recorded of, similar nature.
Well, that
which lended more credibility.
Evil. Yeah, evil. All right, on to a cemetery.
Yeah, and back to a kid's voice.
Oh, great.
Yeah, I know, right? And this is one of the aside from a couple of the voices we'll play tonight, this is one of the worst. Just because it implies to me that a kid is still around and it's still interacting with people, thinking it's still there, thinking he can still do all that, and that to me is horrible. But we're in a cemetery. This is one of the old analog recording. I mean, this was 99, 2000,
okay.
Maybe somewhere around there.
Right.
And you're going to hear my wife say, "Did you just pull down the blanket?" And Barbara says, "No." And then you're going to hear this little child say, "I did."
Oh,
and then, my wife says, "Did you just feel like a tug?" And Barbara says, "No."
All right.
And
no children anywhere around, right?
No,
cemetery in the middle of the night.
Well, it's not even a cemetery in the middle of the night. This is a cemetery in the middle of the night in the middle of December. So, again, that's why she's saying, "Did you pull down the blanket?" Because we used to go out into cemeteries and have blankets wrapped around us. It was, that's what you had to do.
I'd want that, too. All right, here it comes.
Did you just pull down the blanket?
No.
Did you feel like a tug?
No.
I did is very, very clear. Very clear.
Right.
A child pulled down the blanket. Once more.
Did you just pull down the blanket?
No.
Did you feel like a tug?
No.
Too many children.
Oh, it gets worse.
I'm sure it does. All right, this next one should be, I think, pretty interesting. There's nothing said before. This is, it just said, what it says is, I haven't heard these, it says baby laughing.
Yeah, this was, again, it's also in a cemetery. You'll hear wind blowing. This was this is one of those situations that we were referencing earlier where occasionally we'll put a digital recorder down somewhere and then leave the scene. And what we did was we set a digital recorder down on the grave of a baby. It was a baby grave. There's a little, marble lamb kind of carved on top of the grave.
Yes.
You get the idea. Yeah. So we set the digital recorder down and walked away. You'll hear wind blowing. Now, there was some arguing within the GIS, Barbara, Brendan, myself, because some of us say that the baby is laughing. Others of us say the baby is crying. It's really subjective, and, I'm interested to see what you think about this.
Well, there's a lot of mothers out there. They should know. Here it comes. Holy moly.
Yeah.
You know what? I'm split too. I don't know. Is that a laugh or is that a cry or is that just, that could be like a 3-month-old baby.
Yeah, it's young. I mean, you can tell just from the tonnage. I mean, it's a young child.
And you sure can hear the wind. Here it comes once more. Listen very carefully, folks. You tell me, all you moms out there, you tell me, what is this? Reminding you, I warned you at the beginning of this program, I warned you, these things were going to be disturbing, and they are. I really have the hardest time, guys, believing that the God that we all, think of, and, everybody thinks of some kind of, well, except for one guy I know. Everybody else thinks of a God who wouldn't allow a child. I don't know.
There's a lot of theories.
It is what it is, I guess. I don't know what to say.
There's the theory of residual haunting, which is there's not an actual spirit there. It's just, energy. almost playing like on a tape loop over and over and over through time, and then there's not a sentient being there.
Have you confirmed that? In other words, if you go to the same location, are you liable to get the same EVP again and again and again?
We thought we had. At one point, we thought we had been able, and it was at this same cemetery, that we thought we had a residual haunting, and it wasn't with this voice. I mean, it had nothing to do with this voice.
Okay.
Where we would record the same woman's voice over and over and over again. And we thought, again, the radio transmissions, are we picking up some radio station? This is some local host that we don't know about. And then we realized that wasn't the case.
No, I don't hear that in any of these.
Yeah,
if there was some kind of broadcast something, I would know
we've done that
instantly.
once when we used the old recorders, like the old recorders, and this is again 15 years ago. We recorded radio stuff, I think twice, and we knew that's
it's
what
very
it was.
Clearly radio when you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's clear.
And then
I'd know right away.
Yeah.
I'd know right away. That's not what this
because
is.
They have that voice, they have that tonage, they have that's what it is. And then when we recorded this lady's voice saying, finally, I think it was the 8th or 9th time we had done this investigation, she just said, "I'm completely dead." And it was like
intelligent.
Yeah, and it was a self-realization to her. I'm dead. You guys are looking for me. And then we never recorded her voice again.
And that wouldn't be residual. And I'm kind of like you are. I really struggle with this. I don't know that I believe in the residual thing. I struggle.
I wonder if when you said you never recorded her voice again after that, I wonder if once she realized she was dead, she moved on.
Exactly. I mean, and that's cliched. I mean, it's completely cliched to say that, but that's the truth. I mean, once she realized, you know what, I'm not supposed to be here. These people are looking for me. I thought I was part of them, and now I'm gone.
Got it. All right, we have a lot of territory to cover, so number 9.
Okay, so this is another one that was sent to us. If you're ever aware of a book, I can't remember the guy's name who wrote it. It was called Phone Calls from the Dead. And it was documenting phenomena where relatives would call their family after they passed on.
Right.
And they would literally talk to them. And this goes back to, we talked earlier about Thomas Edison and all that, inventing machines to do this. That's kind of the theory behind it. So this was sent to us from Britain. And
yeah, really?
It's a message that was left on an answering machine. The family said they had no phone call that came in. Caller ID did not show anybody calling. But all of a sudden this message was there, and you're going to hear the message machine pick up, so it says message something or other, blah, 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 and then the beep, and then you're just going to hear this gruff man, like, I mean, it doesn't even sound human, almost, say, "They're coming home." And
was this a voice that people recognized?
Yeah, the neighbor, they actually recognized that this was their neighbor's voice. I mean, this was somebody they knew that had passed on. I mean, even though to us it doesn't sound human, to them, they recognized it.
All right, we're listening for "They're Coming Home." Here it comes.
It's 4. Wednesday, 8:12 p.m.
Oh, God. Yeah, it's pretty clear.
Yeah.
It sounds evil, but I guess it wasn't.
Yeah, they actually said in their email that this was comforting. And to hear that voice and the sound, I don't know how you could think that, but
that wouldn't comfort me.
Yeah.
No way.
Neither.
No how. No. One more time. Here you go.
4. Wednesday, 8:12 p.m.
Hey. Not at all comforting. Not at all. All right.
It's a little bit different than Buzz and Woody jumping back in the toy box, you know?
A little bit.
A little scary.
Glad it's late at night. All right, number 10.
There's a location that's in Salt Lake City, and it was settled by Mormon pioneers, and we have this big, I don't want to call it it's a park, it's a state park where historical buildings and, artifacts of the era are kind of on display. It's called This Is the Place State Park. The reason it's called This Is the Place is because when the leader of the Mormons at the time, a guy by the name of Brigham Young, who the university, BYU, he was the prophet of the Mormon church. He came down through the mountains with hand carts and wagons and looked over the Salt Lake Valley and said, this is the place. So that's why they call this area, this park, This Is the Place State Park. You're going to hear Brendan in one of the buildings, which, by the way, the place is just incredibly active and very, very haunted, both by good and bad. There's a lot of really very dark and kind of yicky stuff that we've encountered there, which is strange because it's actually a religious park. But Brendan is having some trouble in this EVP. You'll hear Brendan struggling with his radio, which is a common occurrence there. There's a lot of energy drains there, a lot of drains on batteries and equipment. And you'll hear Brendan say, hey, does this radio work? You'll hear him kind of messing with it. Does this radio work?
To be fair, I mean, this was me because it's such a huge place. We had to have radios. So I was trying to radio people constantly. And there's actually an EVP that precedes this that we didn't bring tonight that, I mean, you hear it's like a 2-minute long clip of me just having trouble with this.
Right.
And then this one is kind of right after, and it's the rubbing salt in the wound kind of thing where it's just completely mocking me.
Yeah, you hear a voice say, I don't like you. And it's messing with Brendan's radio intentionally because the spirit that was inhabiting this area did not like the fact that Brendan was there.
Here it comes, number 10.
Hello. Okay. Does nobody's radio work? Oh my.
Uh-oh. Oh, very clear. I heard a squelch break. So obviously, you were messing with the radio or somebody, but that's not where this voice came from. Very clearly, It is not where this voice came from.
Yeah,
One more time,
I
folks.
did not. When I said I was in that house, I did not hear that at the time. I heard the radio messing up, and
right.
At one point, I heard it's almost like the spirit box thing again, that where we talked about it, and we heard different.
Yeah, but you don't find these until hours and hours and hours, if not days later.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, all that happened, and then all of a sudden, it's just, I don't like you, and then...
the only way that EVP could have been better is if it said, me don't like you, because it sounds just like Cookie Monster when you listen to it.
Cookie Monster. Okay, here it is.
Hello. Okay. Does nobody's radio work? Oh my...
It's actually a good thing that you didn't hear that at the time, or probably if you were like me, you'd have been the heck out of there.
Well, it's not even, I don't think I would have been because I've dealt with this for so long. I don't know if you can hear in my tonage, like, how upset I was getting.
I heard it. I heard you. Yes, I heard that. But the I don't like you part, not good. Not good at all.
Not at all.
Well, all right. So we leave a private residence, and now let's enter a mortician's house. Great place.
Which is technically a private residence, but it's different where the guy is preparing bodies all day.
Not my kind of private residence.
Yeah, exactly. This clip is probably the one clip that has absolutely changed my entire view of everything we do.
Really?
It really is, because it is, I mean, again, I rationalize everything. I try to rationalize everything. And I could rationalize this even just to make myself feel better that everything we've recorded is radio transmission, or it's...
Oh, nonsense.
I know, it isn't, but it makes me feel better to say that it is, especially with some of the stuff that's been said and what we've heard. But this one, I mean, there was a visual thing, and this is one of the only visual things I've ever had happen.
What was it?
Is this the one with the little boy? The little boy. This is the first apparition Brendan has ever actually seen. This was the first time he ever saw a full-blown apparition.
Describe it, please.
Well, we're in this house, and, morticians, believe it or not, actually make a lot of money. So they can afford really nice houses. So this guy's house is like a 4-level, magnificent house. And when we went in there was only 4 of us. And we each took one of the levels. So we had somebody in the basement, somebody second floor, somebody third, somebody fourth. I was on the floor with the huge living room and the fireplace. And right over the fireplace in this living room was this gigantic wall mirror. I mean, it covered the entire wall. And I remember walking in there, and this is another analog one, because this was 2003, I think. I remember walking into this room and just seeing this mirror and being kind of in awe of it. And you're going to hear me say, is anyone here? Again, the standard question. And then all of a sudden you're going to hear a boy say, I'm a good boy, which later we found out most people think he says, I'm Gabe. And then at that point, I see him, running behind me. There's no kids in this house. There's none. We tell everybody on every investigation, you can't have anybody under 18 to be with us.
Right.
So...
Okay. All right. And so you actually saw him.
But the problem is that he was running away from Brendan, but his head was turned around.
It was. It looked like his neck was broke.
So it wasn't just a little boy, it was a damaged little boy who was staring at him as he was running away. Does that make sense?
Yes, unfortunately.
And we asked the mortician, had he worked on any kids that had a broken neck?
And?
It said, a year ago he had, which, we didn't correlate because, it's a year ago. But
here it comes.
Is anyone here? No way. No way. No way.
Huh. No way.
Well, and
so,
who
said no way?
Yeah,
who said
Brendan.
no way?
Brendan?
Okay, that's Brendan's voice. So you hear, I'm a good boy, Brendan saying no way. I assume that was when you saw him?
That was responding to what I had just seen in the mirror, and then the kid laughing right after I did that. That's
all right, one more time. Now listen very carefully. No way is Brendan in response to seeing this apparition. Here you go.
Is anyone here? No way. No way. No way.
Wow. That's a wow.
Well, that was, like I said, this is the one clip out of there's one other clip, but now it has just changed my entire view of what we do and how we do it and what I think.
Have you ever come to the point where you said, that's it, no more, I'm not doing this anymore?
Not yet, but I've been close.
It was, when we were at that private home, when we got, audible EVP of something speaking Latin and throwing things at us. That was the only time since 1999 where Brendan has actually come to me and said, look, we got to get out of here. I can't do this.
I did. I mean, I forced everybody to leave. I mean,
I didn't want to go. I thought we Brendan and I had a little discussion. I thought we could handle it. And, he was absolutely insistent that we not stay. So
Barbara had a much more optimistic a view of all of this. She tried to sort of temper everything, even when some of the worst things were said.
She did.
She tried to be optimistic. So,
and she still does. I mean, again, it's not like she's not here or she's not doing this. I mean, she's still a part of all of this. It's just she can't do it as much now. But,
all right. Number 12, folks. We're going to move on. Bram House, whatever that is.
The Bram House is, again, this is one of those rare times. Keep in mind that, we're showcasing a lot of EVPs here tonight, and a lot of them come from very evil and dark places, and it's actually very, very rare that we ever investigate anything like this or that we ever accept an invitation to investigate anything like this. But this was a house where the inhabitants, the women inside, were practicing witchcraft. They were witches.
Oh.
And and there was a lot of kind of dark ceremony going on in there, and they were dabbling in kind of black magic sounds so corny, but they were dabbling in some pretty dark stuff. And it wasn't long after they started doing this sort of thing where they started having some real problems in the home, waking up with cuts on their bodies, waking up with scratches, deep scratches, not just, scuffs and things like that, but scratches or cuts that were drawing blood.
Well, and at one point their altar, because I don't know enough about witchcraft, I think, but I guess they have an altar that they have to have in a certain position. They woke up one day and it was destroyed and thrown all over their living room.
I am familiar with people who work in the craft.
Okay,
all right. So the actual EVP here is anyone here now? Who says that?
Well, you're going to hear me say, "Is anyone here?
Brendan
does anyone want to talk to me?" And then there's going to be this kid, and this goes back to what Jimmy was saying about kids not being, kids.
Right.
And this kid says there was blood.
Oh, great. All right, here it comes. Stand by, everybody.
Is anyone here? Anyone want to talk to me?
Oh, that's awfully clear. Very, very clear. There was blood.
And again, it's clear it's a kid. I mean, it's...
I know.
It's a child.
Is there anything in the... Well, I guess there is history. If there were people practicing the craft, there could have been, I suppose, sacrifices that went on.
Exactly, and that's what I thought. Because you're in... These people, when they contacted us, and again, what Jimmy was saying, we don't normally do cases like that because normally what you're dealing with when you are into different things like that where you're inviting stuff, it's demonic, and that's not what we do. We don't actually seek that out.
I understand. It's coming up once more here, folks. Understand that what you're hearing is the result of hundreds of hours of work, listening to basically nothing until you get to one of these EVPs. Here it is.
Anyone here? Anyone want to talk to me?
Am I right? Hundreds of hours?
Oh, yeah. Fair enough.
Actually, you're probably wrong. It's thousands. I mean, at this point, like the way we've done this,
that must get very tiring.
It is so tedious.
As the years have gone on, Art, we've found ways to kind of streamline what we do. We're very careful to do what's called tagging. And that's, when you're walking through a house, any sort of noise that you make is identified by you on the recorder. So you hear footsteps, you say, that's me making footsteps. Or I hear Brendan talking in another room. Sure. I'm careful to say there's Brendan talking in another room, because then you go back hours after the fact, and rather than spending 20 minutes listening to something and then finally determining, oh, that's Brendan talking in another room, you're able to just move on. So over the years, we've really been able to kind of trim that down, but it is still very, very tedious.
Would the two of you, earlier in the program, I suggested people try this for themselves. Is there any danger in doing this?
Yes.
There is. I mean, danger as far as are you going to be killed? No. But danger in the fact that could something follow you home, that's certainly a possibility.
Has something ever followed you home?
Yes.
Yeah, I had something very dark, very malevolent, hurting my son.
We both have.
Yeah, Brendan has too.
Yeah.
Not good.
No.
See, that's going to discourage people, and maybe it should.
It should.
Well, because, I mean, it makes you think, is this something I want to do? I mean, this is show and tell. We're not proving anything to anybody. We just want to present what we have. If you question it, we say go out and do it, but realize if you go out and do it, I mean,
you're inviting. It's like an invitation.
Exactly. It's what is the consequence of doing this?
Well, and in order to really be effective at this, you really do kind of need to, well, there's no kind of about it, you really do need to open yourself up to allow contact to be made.
Isn't that the same thing you do with a Ouija board?
Yeah, exactly.
It is. I had a woman ask me just a couple of days ago, what's the difference between using a Ouija board and using a digital recorder? Or what's the difference between using a spirit box and using a Ouija board? And my only answer is that a lot of people will say none. I say that the difference is that, operating a Ouija board, the theory behind it is that, an entity has to inhabit your body in order to move, the piece around the board.
That's a good point.
These other items, the entity will, as I was talking about at the beginning of the show, if you weren't here listening to us, we have video of light anomalies and orbs actually flying into the device or the flashlight or something in order to manipulate it in some way.
Which you promised to bring in the next time we do a program, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, of course, of course.
We'll have that on the website. All right, number 13, please.
Okay, so this is at the same house, and it's just me asking, after we did the interview with these ladies, and they told us how bad this had become.
Right.
I'm asking the spirits or demon, whatever is in that house, I'm saying, did you scratch that lady? Why would you do that? And then this just a horrible old man's voice says, to cause her pain.
All right, here it comes.
Did you scratch that lady? What would you do?
Interesting, to cause her pain. Not perfectly clear, but clear enough.
Yeah, it is. It's muffled, but I mean, it's pretty syllabilically. It's pretty clear.
And you think that's an old man? It does kind of sound like an old man. One more time.
It sounds like.
Did you scratch that lady? What would you do?
Well, that's bad intentions all the way.
Yeah.
All right. These are pretty rough tonight. I did ask for scary stuff, so I guess I got what I asked for. All right, we're going to move on now to a happier place, I guess, an antique shop. Yes?
Oh, yeah. You think happy. This is actually one of our more sad, I don't know if I would call it scary, but definitely one of our more sad EVPs. Again, it's another child's voice. It takes us we were investigating an old bookstore / antique shop, and we were talking earlier about how artifacts and items can be haunted as well as people and houses. Anytime you get into an antique shop, where you've got a lot of memories and a lot of that type of energy around, it seems to me that hauntings seem to be a little bit more prevalent. Well, we were in this place, and you hear Brendan say, it's a very familiar question, can you tell us what it's like where you're at? And then you hear a very sad little child say, I didn't eat today.
Really?
Yeah.
And think the consequence of that. That they're on the other side,
hungry, thinking they're hungry.
That, yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Here we go.
Can you tell us what it's like where you're at?
All right. Victorian, I guess, huh?
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, when I say Victoria, it's an old, Victorian mansion or like late 1800s style architecture. And we have done this location, I would say, 20 times at least. This is one of the weirdest voices we've got, and it's simply because, again, the context of what I'm saying and what the voice says. But you're going to hear me say, are you by yourself? How big are you? And then a voice says, she knows you're alone, which I was at the time.
Any idea or thoughts or guesses about who she might be?
I almost don't want to. Yes.
All right. Here we go.
Are you by yourself? How big are you?
Yeah, that's right. She knows you're alone. When I was young, we lived in a place called Blue Ridge Summit, Pennsylvania, or Maryland, depending on how you want to look at it. The state line and the Mason-Dixon ran right through the middle of our house, and it was a big old house with 35 rooms, 7 bathrooms, and secret passageways that were used for the slaves that were escaping. It was part of the whole train that allowed slaves to make their way north. And we had secret passages all over that house. It would have been such a wonderful place for you all to go and do some recording.
I'm salivating.
Yeah, that's like now we're kind of jealous, so.
Yeah. She knows you're alone. Okay, I'm going to do it once more so everybody gets it straight. Here it is.
Are you by yourself? How big are you?
All right, that had a very interesting affect to it, a kind of a whooshy, it's hard to describe, a kind of in and out, phased sound to it. I guess that's the way I'd put it.
We have noticed that that weird phasing that you're talking about usually accompanies virtually every EVP we get. It is, and I struggle with it. I can't tell if it's the spirit drawing energy out of the actual device itself, or if it's the energy surrounding the device that the spirit is using to speak. I don't know, but you get that weird warble and phasing effect in almost every EVP we've encountered.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah, very strange.
Something about perhaps coming from wherever it's coming from.
Yeah.
And to be honest, we don't really know, do we? It's just coming from over there somewhere.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, how will we ever know? I mean, again, we talked about doing this to try and get answers for things, but now we have more questions, and it's almost like we've learned less. So, maybe I should start asking what that is, and hopefully I get a response one day.
Well, how about we put it this way in the form of a question. Everybody fears their own mortality, to some degree or another. What is all this, when you combine it together, make you think about your own mortality and what you're going to... In other words, does everybody spend time on Earth before proceeding elsewhere? Or is what we're hearing what you get when you die?
You know, the quick answer, Art, is I don't know. And I don't know that anybody could really accurately tell you that.
It's an honest answer. You're right. How could you possibly know?
You know, we have theories. People have theories. I try not to have. I try not to have theories. You know, the arrogance of humans. You know,
right.
We can use a fork, therefore we know everything. Well, we just don't. You know.
All right. Number 16.
This takes us back to, this is the Place State Park. Now, again, you must remember this is it's a Mormon run and funded state park. We used to go there quite frequently. We don't go there anymore because Brendan went on national TV and said there was something demonic in there. So we haven't been back. Imagine that. But we did get an awful lot of activity while we were there. This is Brendan saying, I'm going to walk down and try and find Brian, who is a GIS member. Says, I'm going to walk down and try and find Brian. Let me look here. Timestamp is 8:23. So at 8:23, I am now leaving. So it's kind of a long, long sentence from Brendan.
This is me tagging. I mean, we talked earlier about tagging audio and
absolutely.
Yeah, so this is me tagging this.
And again, because, you know, there is something very, very dark. Both Brendan and I have had some pretty malicious and malevolent run-ins at this place, and you'll clearly hear a very dark and deep voice say, "Get out." It's that classic haunted voice, you know.
All right, here it comes.
I'm going to walk down and try and find Brian, so... Let me look here. Timestamp is 8:23. So at 8:23, I am now leaving.
I wouldn't need any more encouragement than that. Of course, fortunately for you, you didn't hear it at the time, and it sounded like, frankly, you had already gone.
Well, yeah.
Was that? I mean, I heard a door shut. I heard a door close, right?
Yeah, because I was leaving. But I've done this so much. Even if I had heard it, I would have stayed at that point. This was, if you remember the radio voice that we played earlier, where I was getting so upset at the radio.
Yes.
I mean, I would have stayed just simply out of spite.
But see, that's Brendan. Where Brendan says, that's interesting, that's the same time when Chunga fills his pants. You know, and that's the beauty of having different members in a group like this.
I understand.
So I'm going to walk down and try and find Brian. So, let me look here. Timestamp is 8:23. So at 8:23, I am now leaving.
That's horribly clear.
Yeah.
Well, that's all I'll say about it. It's horribly clear and horribly direct.
I would say it's probably the fifth or sixth voice that we have been told to get out.
It happens. But imagine how many times, Art, you've left a building and that has happened behind you and have no idea.
Yeah.
Of course.
Or anyone else, as you're driving across the country or whatever. How many times
I can only imagine the expression on Brendan's face when he found that later, much later.
Oh, yeah. On everybody's face.
All right, we're going back to the exchange.
Yes. Yeah, and this is where it starts getting not good.
Not good. You mean everything up to now was a love fest?
Well, it's been okay.
Yes, from an EVP point of view.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, in this, there is not going to be we're not going to repeat this voice over and over again, like we do, twice in a row.
Right.
There's no context. This is one of those instances where we left a recorder in a room by itself.
Yes.
And pretty much left the building at this point. And, you go back on audio a day later and look at the spectrograph, to see.
Sure.
That's kind of how we do it, is we look at the audio. We don't even listen to it as much.
I understand, right.
Right. So we go back and do this, and there's just this thing that it's this kid saying, he touched my face over and over again. And it kind of also goes back to the baby voice that we played, where we couldn't decide if the baby was crying or laughing.
Either way, it's very disturbing.
Yeah, this one, everybody kind of thinks it either says he touched my face or he cut my face.
All right, here it is. Coming up. Wow. You know what I wanted to hear, and I'm going to play it again so that I can decide. I'm trying to decide if the inflection is the same each time. What do you think?
I think it ranges, actually. It's almost like he's progressing.
He's pleading. It's not the same thing being run over and over again. He's pleading for somebody to understand him.
Got you. All right, here it comes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That was very clearly a change, a big change in inflection, and you're right, it was increasingly pleading.
Right. I mean, he just says it over and over and over, and that's why we said, this isn't looped. We didn't.
And I want everybody to take a moment and lock that voice into their memory, that little kid's voice, because that leads us into the next EVP. Now, the two EVPs were now recorded together, and I don't know if you're prepared to run that, Art, but I just want everybody to remember that little voice there.
All right. Remember that little voice there. I need to take a break. More ways than one. If I had a cigarette and I was still smoking, I'd light up about now. This is Dark Matter. Continue with number 18 coming up next. And you said, remember that voice. It's burned in, no problem. What's number 18?
Well, number 18 is, without a doubt, one of the top two most disturbing and heart-wrenching EVPs I've ever heard. It's also, to my knowledge, one of the longest EVPs ever recorded. Typically, when an EVP is recorded, it's one word or, just a few short words or maybe a really short phrase. This EVP is nearly a minute and a half long.
Wow.
In its entirety, which is an eternity when you're talking about EVPs. It was recorded in that stock exchange building that we were, I was telling you earlier that this thing got its, its birth as a stock exchange building. I'm talking about livestock, cattle, and horses and the like.
Right.
In its lifetime, it was a variety of things. It was an insane asylum, and it was a small hospital, and it was also a rehab facility. At one point, there had been numerous deaths. There was a mass murder there at one point. There was a bunch of suicides. There's been a lot of agony and trauma and pain in this building.
Right.
We recorded this EVP. And again, this is just incredibly sad to listen to. I want to warn everybody ahead of time. Very, very sad to listen to. It is what you're going to hear was recorded in a room that was once a surgical suite inside this building. Keep in mind, there's no running water. There's not been any running water in this building since the early 1970s. We set up a laptop with a condenser mic in the surgical suite, which is on the main floor of this building. And we left. Brendan, Barbara, the other members of the GIS, and I left the building. And we had, Brendan, how long was it? About 25 minutes?
Oh, yeah.
Of silence.
Yeah, easy.
You can hear, random cars passing in the back. And then this happened. And it is absolutely stunning.
What is it we're going to hear?
It's there is no tactful way to say this. It is the drowning of a little boy.
Oh, God. All right.
And the voice sounds eerily similar to the EVP that you just heard. If you listen carefully, you can hear two adults. What sounds like a male and a female to me. And you'll hear a little boy repeating over and over and over again, I can't breathe, I can't breathe. You'll hear splashing around, banging on the side of the tub. And then you'll hear a woman say he can't breathe, and then a man in a very dark, foreboding, very evil voice, say he can't breathe. And then you'll hear a very deep thud, and everything goes silent.
Here it is.
Stays silent.
Here it is. I'm not going to play that one again. The hearing the voices was very difficult. There was hum in that recording.
Yeah.
Which is too bad. Clearly, though, the water, that was easy to hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. When we first found that, we listened to it as a group, and there wasn't a dry eye in the room.
Yeah.
As we heard that, in fact, there was a debate between,
That's horrible.
Brendan, Barbara, and myself as to whether or not that was ever going to see the light of day.
Really?
We almost just erased it and said, you know what, that's too much. That's way too much.
Yeah, Barbara, who is not in favor of this angle of the whole thing, I would have imagined, probably would not have wanted to play that.
She didn't. No, she didn't at all. And
it was really me pushing them to try and get it on your show and on my show. That she kind of begrudgingly agreed. But even Brendan was opposed to it.
Yeah, it was kind of realizing, we do this for a reason. I mean, we treat these ghosts as people. I mean, that's how we've done this. And then to hear something like that, you can only hope that's a radio station. And it goes back to my whole thing of rationalizing this.
Yeah, and Art, that's no radio station.
Right. No. Number 19.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, so number 19. This is in the same building, and you hear me drop my recorder, And it was actually, for the time, this was 2005,
Right.
It was an expensive digital recorder. And you hear me say, oh, well, that can't be good. And then all of a sudden this woman just says, he broke my neck, which we later found out that happened in that building.
Really?
And she doesn't sound too happy.
Yeah, she is very, very upset.
All right, number 19.
Oh, I can't do that.
Very, very clear. He broke my neck. Now, do you know if there was some kind of crime?
Yeah, there was absolutely a crime in that building. There was, this place, like Jimmy had said, it's everything from a stock exchange building and stock livestock to,
sure,
mental institution. There was a double homicide. There were suicides. And we found out one of the homicides was a guy breaking a woman's neck. So this, you could almost consider this contemporary information because we didn't know that at the time. But
okay, here it is one more time. Listen.
Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, if you want a show for Halloween, you might want to record this one and have sort of a family night in the dark on Halloween. Number 20.
Number 20 is really simple. Also in the same building. It's just a woman humming. It requires really no more than that. Again, no one was around. You just hear a woman humming.
Just going to get whatever you get, I guess.
Yeah, that's it.
Here it is. You know what my comment is? At least she sounds happy.
Well, the interesting thing about that building, Art, is that when you go into the Exchange building, because I think the last thing it was commercially was a methadone clinic and involuntary rehab center, basically, and you'll see messages of what I call medicated optimism scrawled all over the walls.
Medicated optimism.
And you can tell that they're on something, and it's just these random, messages of, somewhat delusional messages of hope. And so when we got that humming, it sounds to me, again, you've got that weird kind of phasing and that weird kind of warble as she's humming, but it sounds to me like she's just kind of zoned out and she's just hopped up on methadone or something and just kind of mumbling / humming to herself.
Yeah, and it's almost like you can just picture the woman walking down the hallway.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. Yeah.
All right, I want to turn the audience loose on you two, but we've got one more here and then a quick break and then we'll go to the phone. So, number 21, the last one we've got tonight.
Okay, so this is a private residence, and we had to say this is a private residence, so I can't even tell you where it's at. Because, yeah, we were kind of forced to. But it's one of my, again, standard questions that I ask when I go out. I'm just saying, how old are you? And then this woman says, he's so little.
Here it is.
How old are you?
He's so little.
Okay, let me do that one more time. With a little more volume.
How old are you?
All right, there you've got it. We're going to go to the phone. Take some questions from the audience because they sure do have them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, then here it comes. Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS.
Hey, Art, this is Eddie in Arizona.
Hello.
Roswell's from Belgab, sir.
Thank you.
I record music and record voices for a living. So I wanted to ask your guests how they explain how the EVPs take on the reverberation and the sound of the room if the EVPs aren't actually being recorded or being heard by the human ear.
Well, you know, Eddie, this is Chunga. It's Jimmy. I also am in music production. That's what I do. That's kind of my day job. And, you know, my answer, Brendan may certainly have a different answer. My answer is, I don't know. That's why it's called a phenomenon. It's because we have absolutely no clue as to why the echoes and the sound reverberations can be picked up, other than they're just speaking at a frequency that our human ear can't hear.
And that's the thing. I mean, we've said this for years. We don't know. Again, it's a phenomenon. It's to explain, especially in the mausoleum, because it has that
the high marble walls and the cathedral,
Yeah, but you know that implies though that that it was actual audio, that it was actually reverberating off the walls.
And also, Art, the recorders, they record the same frequency that the human ears can hear. It's 20 hertz to 20,000 megahertz, or 20 megahertz. So the human ear can hear that, and so the recorders can hear that as well.
Yeah.
That's the point. How do you explain it?
How can you not hear it?
You look at, like, the hundreds of people that have done it, and just say, okay, well, I didn't think this existed, and
I think the best answer, really, for those who are skeptical, I say go get yourself a recorder.
Well, you don't. At this point, you don't even have to get a recorder. I mean,
use your smartphone.
Can do it. Yeah.
Okay. And use your smartphone. I don't care. Although you probably need more volume to listen. Well, I guess with headphones it'd be all right.
Headphones. Yeah,
That's how I've been listening to him, Art. And with the fidelity through Sirius, I mean, it's really uncanny how much you can pick up. Especially the first three that you did. It sounded like the EVP, the voice, wasn't even taking on the reverb characteristics of the room at all. It sounded like they were in like a dark chamber, and, you know, the investigator's voice sounded like it was in like a plate or a hall in, a much smaller room, which I thought, well, how can that be? And then the later ones, the last 15 or so you did, the voice, the reverberation sounded almost exact to...
Yeah, and I think a lot of that has to do with, the difference in what we're using, how we're recording stuff.
The ones that were played later there were more traditional analog recordings in the later EVPs that you heard. The ones that we played first were some of the newer, more digital ones. But again, that offers no explanation whatsoever.
So do you guys believe that the digital is better than the analog as far as recording EVPs, or have you noticed a difference, especially with the audio artifacts and things, especially with the digital stuff?
Let me tell you this: I know people that will drop hundreds of dollars on really top-end digital recorders, and it's been our experience that the traditional cassette tapes and lower-end digital recorders tend to work better, simply because they don't filter out as much white noise. So it allows us to kind of differentiate a little bit easier. But again, that doesn't mean that the higher end stuff isn't going to pick things up. We use a very expensive condenser mic, and we get, lots of data from it. So, again, we can't really point to one thing that works better than another. They're just kind of different.
Do you guys process the EVPs at all, or is there any type of processing with the digital recorders as far as like bringing the noise levels down, or any compression or things like that might add artifacts?
No, No, the only thing we do, I mean, we process as far as taking out any white noise that might be there. The mixer didn't, take out.
Well, what about the recorder? You record as you're recording them.
Yeah, yeah. Like the recorder stuff, yeah, we had to process that, especially when it was analog. I mean, because you have the motor head, you have moving parts that are...
Yeah, I could actually hear the motor head in one of them.
Exactly, yeah.
You could tell that was the older one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yep.
And also to keep the credibility of the GIS, there's something that I feel I have to tell you, because this is my occupation, is, using, Pro Tools and Ableton and a lot of these different software programs, because that's my occupation, I don't actually do this. All of this stuff is actually done by Brendan. I don't touch it at all, because I don't want anybody to get the credit, to think that, I have in some way, because I'm a professional at it, I've in some way manipulated anything.
Or over-processing it.
Yeah, so I don't touch it. I don't touch it at all. It's all done by Brendan, who does not do that for a living.
Right.
Because it sounds
the voices are what they are. Caller, thank you. The voices are what they are. And as I said, if you're skeptical,
go try it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Go try it for yourself. Now, we've done that in times past, and inevitably I get all these people coming back to me in email, sending me EVPs, telling me, oh, yeah. People don't realize this goes back to the beginning of sound, to Alexander Graham Bell, and on from there.
Kind of like what we said before, where, people say, well, you're skeptical, and, hey, we tell them go try it, and then they say, well, you guys have some kind of companionship or partnership with Sony, and that's why you're telling us to go try it, because then we're going to go out and buy a Sony recorder, and we're going to, you can't win. And we don't want people to...
I know.
Do that.
You want to know something, too? I'm going to throw you kind of a curveball here, Art. This goes back to, back in the days of vaudeville, when they were trying to find ways to amplify voices in theaters, they would use copper wiring that would run down through the perimeter of a theater. And they would try to find, I don't know how much you know about this, but, actors would report hearing voices picking up EVP off of this copper wiring, out of this reaction in theaters.
Yeah,
and so, the reports of EVPs and this phenomena going on goes way back to before there was any sort of electrified sound.
Gotcha.
And it would, challenge yourself. Go read this stuff and grab a tape recorder and go out to a cemetery and just try it on your own. And when you do that, it's like somebody opening up the window shade to an entirely different world, when you know yourself that there was nobody there with you, and yet you have...
All right. Dark Matter, you're on the air with the GIS. Hi.
Yes, hello, Art. It's a great honor to speak with you and your guests. I want to reference a couple things from Whitley Strieber's book, The Key, in regards to the why the dead come through as children. The one reference is the acts of life affect the appearance of the dead in every tiny detail. Everything is imprinted upon the soul.
Okay, you don't have a very good connection. Say that again, please.
I'm sorry, I'll say it a lot clearer. The acts of life affect the appearance of the dead in every tiny detail. Everything is imprinted upon the soul, often in surprising ways. Those dead appear as innocent children, longing for sensual lives and hoping that the body will be sparked that kiss them.
Wow. Okay, yeah, that seems to be spot on. Were you gentlemen aware of that?
Well, yes and no, because that's a very common belief. However, there are many common beliefs with regard to children and the dead. Some people believe that when you die, your soul, your persona, your visible appearance looks as though you're in the prime of your life. Some people.
Well, again, I'm no expert on any of this, but you have a disproportionate number of children recorded. There's no question about it.
Yeah.
Okay, Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS. Hello. Hello.
Hello.
Yes.
Oh, hello. Yes, I'm Ernesto. Nice to meet you, Roswell, and everything. Thank you. What I wanted to say was I actually had an experience, that one of those rare ones, with my sister. So it was verified, and it was you could say an EVP, except we did not record it, and instead we heard it live in the room. It was really odd. She had some loud music on, electronic music.
Wait a minute. You heard it live in the room?
Yes, a voice. And which is
very rare.
Yes, and what is really interesting is it sounded very much like your demonic samples. It was really interesting when you said that and you played some of those. And what happened was it sounded like a very large whisper.
And you'll have to excuse me, sir. I'm not an expert on cell phones, but you sound a little demonic yourself right now. Your connection.
I forgot. Hello?
Yes.
Hello. I'm so sorry about that. It's from Bluetooth. Okay. And sorry. And so what happened was I had said some remark, and that was very strange because it was in a way responding to my remark. It was something like we had just moved into that new house, and I had said, oh, maybe things will be okay now. And at that moment, I was looking out a window, and a voice, very large whisper that was demonic a bit, said, what makes you think you're okay? Like that. And at the beginning, part of that sentence happened. I thought it was my sister, so I was turning back toward her, but I thought it was so odd. And as I looked at her, I noticed she was turning toward me in the same way, with the same look on her face. Like, what is that? Wow. And it was between us. So we even tested it after that, and she kept replaying the same song 5 seconds, 10 seconds before, but it never had a voice. It was really strange.
Boy, do I appreciate that story. That's pretty wild.
Well, and it kind of goes back to that private residence that we
have you two heard of out loud EVPs before?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of
Not that rare?
We've got they're not common. I wouldn't call them extremely rare, but we've gotten a lot of activity where you can visibly or I guess audibly, I should say, hear screams or yells or footsteps, or investigated an old hospital out in kind of in a small town called Tooele out here in Utah, and it had just shrieks. A woman just shrieking as though she was being attacked, and it was recorded on audio, but it was also audible to our ear as it was happening.
Okay, Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS. Hi.
Hey, Art, how you doing?
Okay.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. I have a question from California. I have a question for the guys. Back in the 70s, I used to see ghosts as an older kid. I'd say I was about 10 years old. I don't see them anymore, and I don't know the reasoning for it because I used to see them a lot. They always be interested in my younger brother in his crib. I'd always wake up and see them. They knew I could see them. They were always interested in him as a baby, but I don't see them or hear anything anymore. And I'm just curious if it's something that you lose, or what was the reason of being able to see him at one time and then never having that thing again?
Okay, gentlemen.
Here's the thing. When you're younger, and I've talked about this, I don't know how many times, you are trained to, not trained, but you don't.
You're not trained is really the way to put it.
Yeah, that's kind of it. I mean, when you get older, you get trained not to see certain things. You get trained you're going to be crazy or judged as, when you're younger, you're innocent. You don't know that shouldn't exist. I mean,
that's right. The world trains you not to hear these things and not to believe these things, and so your mind does what it's been trained to do and rejects them. And that's why, the wormhole, for example, I'm getting these messages as we go on. There are some people who just come on and say, it's baloney. I don't believe one word of it.
Well, of course. How could they?
Yeah,
that's how I started this.
You know, one thing that I've worked really hard on, Art, is teaching Brendan. You know, to answer this guy's question, yes, you can get it back. You can get it back very, very easily. And one of the things that I want to try and just kind of really, really impress upon people is that, you know, if you think that you don't have the ability to do this, first of all, everybody does. Some people have more ability, or they're more in tuned and can do it easier. But, you know, go back to Marlon Perkins' Wild Kingdom, or watching, you know, animals in the wild on National Geographic or something. Have you ever noticed how you'll have a pack of, you know, impala or antelope, and they'll all bolt and dart at the same time?
Sure.
And you know, as mammals, we're on this earth as mammals, as animals, just like, you know, everything else in the kingdom. And we're blessed, or we are genetically imbued, whatever you want to call it, with certain sensitivities and certain instincts that we arrogantly devolve as we age. And those sensitivities can very easily come back. And I have found that the more investigating you do, the more in tune you become with the spirit world, and the easier it becomes over time to feel this stuff. And even Brendan, you know, the guy who I've seen objects thrown at him. I've seen things hit him in the head, lights, and, you know, I've seen attacks on this man, and Brendan will dismiss it as though it's nothing. Even he, the eternal skeptic, is starting to come around and come to me and say, you know what, I'm really feeling uncomfortable. You know, what is this that I'm feeling?
We've got people to talk to. Dark Matter, you're on the air with the GIS. Hi.
Hello.
Hello. Yes,
can you hear me?
I hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, so here's my question. I'm curious to know if, as a child, I had an entity in my home. I wasn't the only one who saw it. My mom had seen it. My family had seen it. I'm curious, years later, having think that I have discovered who or what that might have been, is it possible to have something like that attached to someone that you will meet in the future?
Oh, yeah, that I have not heard of. I mean,
that's a first. Yeah. You know what? We don't know.
Right. Good answer. When you don't know, that's the best answer. It really is. And in this field, you just can't know. Dark Matter, you're on the air.
Hi, Art.
Hi.
Say, thank you for such a great show. I don't know whether to turn it off or
I understand.
One interesting, freaky, and spooky show you guys have, and I thank the two guests for going out and gather this stuff. And I got two quick questions, and I'll hang up the flipper. But have either one of you ever experienced, before you heard the audio on it, either a room temperature difference or some presence, in the room where you got the recording? And have you ever had anybody actually identify one of those voices, like the woman that got her neck broke?
Got it. All right. So I think number two is on the ID. Well, yes. Clearly, they identified some of the people who had specific injuries, or mortal injuries in this case, right, guys?
Well, yeah. And we've identified family members that know who. Again, I think it was voice number 3. No, actually, I think it was voice number 5 that we played, the answering machine recording.
Right.
And people identified that as their...
All right. And what about the temperature? What about temperature change?
Constantly. Yeah, this is one of those things that it goes back to that, the short answer is it goes back to what I was talking about before, where, I didn't even realize that I was somebody that was empathic and sensitive to this kind of thing until we've been investigating for a while. And I was recognizing things before the gear was. I was recognizing temperature changes and things like that before the equipment.
How much of a temperature change have you seen?
20, 25 degrees.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. Hot and cold, both directions.
It's been up and down.
We found that usually the more dark and the more malevolent the entity is, the hotter it gets.
Really?
And and the other way around. If it's a fairly benign entity and harmless and just kind of interested in you, it's
cold?
cooler. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS. Hi.
Hello?
Hello. Yes.
Yes, my question is, you guys are talking a lot about, like, the EVPs and stuff like that. My question is, like, the physical. Like, have you guys had anything physically happen to you? And, like, like that.
The answer is clearly yes. I mean, we just heard that Brendan had things thrown at him and hit him in the head and on and on and on, right,
I've
Brendan?
been scratched 3 times on my side, on my ribs.
Yeah. We have had things, and again, this is my my rationalization of all this, trying to figure out how things could have happened where I'm physically having things thrown at me. And, you know, Jimmy just said the exact same thing, that I had something hit me in the head, and I said it was a bat.
When I have it on camera, is a light bulb being thrown at him.
But, yeah, I rationalize it as it was a bat that hit me.
All right, next show, bring the video.
You got it. You got it.
All right. Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS. Hello.
Hello, Mark.
Go ahead, sir.
My question was, me and my wife were wondering if we went to a cemetery where our friends have been buried, which they haven't passed away very long, if it would be a good idea to put a recorder out and try to get answers, or should we just let time pass and then go out and do it?
All right, I've got a question for you. If you got a response, would you want it?
Yes and no.
Figured that might be.
So I would say no. If your answer is yes and no, that pretty much means no.
Yeah, you really ought to think about what you want before you go get it.
Exactly.
You know, the great rule of thumb here is if there is any doubt, there is no doubt. Don't do it.
No, I would agree with that. Hello there. You're on the air with GIS.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, Art. This is Glenn from San Francisco, 73s to you.
Hey, Glenn.
Hi. I was wondering if your guests had, I have a few ideas about eliminating any RF or radio interference getting picked up by their audio recorders by using a small copper Faraday shield and placing it over their tape recorder, and that would almost give them some confidence as far as not having any RF signals getting picked up and only the audio from the...
Excellent point. All right, guys, you know what a Faraday shield is?
Yes, of course.
I would certainly agree with him. If you had a Faraday shield around the recorder with pretty tight mesh, I would say you could be absolutely certain. But, you know, reflecting on what we heard tonight, I wasn't hearing radio. There's no way.
Well, yeah, and again, if there's anything that's even, if there's a shred of doubt, then we debunk it. It's gone.
Yeah.
You know, we're very, very critical of our own work. We're far more critical than you guys are of our work. Right. And if we felt it was necessary to use one of those shields, we definitely would, but we just don't find it necessary.
Well, I can see it could be done as sort of a safety factor, but again, having listened to what we heard tonight, there was no way that was radio. No way. You're on the air, Dark Matter with GIS. Hi.
Hello?
Hello.
Can you hear me?
I hear you.
I had a question about one of your locations. And I don't know that this is something you can give out on the air, but by any chance, the stock exchange building that y'all visited, is that by any chance the Fort Worth Stock Exchange in Texas?
No, sir. No, it's not in Texas.
Okay. I can understand that you want to keep a lot of these places, particularly private residences, secret. And I suppose even this exchange, you really don't want to let people know where?
Well, and here's the thing. It's not even so much us. I mean, I wouldn't have a problem with people, you know, going to these places.
We'd actually encourage it.
Yeah, I mean, we got to a point where there was one location that we had done. Originally, the owner had said, okay, you know what, talk about it, go ahead, promote it, whatever it is.
Right.
And then they sold it, and the lawyer actually called for the new owners, saying remove every reference to that location possible, like everything. If we hear you
I
talk
do
about
understand.
this place. Yeah, so that's where we're very careful about saying anything.
Well, such things affect real estate markets, don't they?
Yeah, they do, and you also get break-ins. You know, not everybody has the best intent, and not everybody's very respectful when they come out to do this kind of thing. And you know, one window and one rock, and you're in the building. So people get very nervous.
Dark Matter, you're on the air with GIS. Hi.
Hi, would that be me?
It would.
Oh, great. Yeah, I just wanted to ask the guys, while they were doing recordings of EVPs, if they've ever felt a presence. The reason why I ask is because occasionally, sometimes I feel a presence around me, and it's kind of like a really eerie feeling. And I've been in places where I know people have passed away before, and one time, this was like I was at work, and I'm outside. It was like in the middle of the night, and I had this very eerie feeling, and felt like I had a finger run down my back. There's a presence.
Well, and here's the thing. Like, that's the difference, I think, between Chunga and I, is I am the last person that will feel something. I have felt something twice. And that's pretty much it. I have had something pretty much scratch/slap me, and then the boy episode that we played tonight. Other than that, I don't feel anything. Something could beat me on the head, and I would not feel a thing. Whereas
I can pick up. You know, we had a bit of a problem with me about a year ago, where I'm at the point now where I can pick up entities that are trying to pose as something else when they're lying or being deceptive, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're demonic. But you know, we ran across a male older entity that was trying to pretend like it was a little girl on EVP, and I called it out, and all hell broke loose. It got really, really bad. And, you know, so it really varies upon the person and their own individual willingness to accept what they're feeling and sensing.
Dark Matter, your turn with GIS. Hi.
Hello?
Hello? Yes, hi.
Art. Roswell.
Yes.
Okay, I have a nice story for you, and it was a good one. My husband passed away, and he and I made a vow that if we could, we would try to contact each other. And so when he passed away, a few months went by. I never felt sad. I always just waited to see if he would come to me or somehow get in touch. And one day, my daughter and I, who I was not really tight with, we were sitting in the kitchen in a very quiet house, and she got up and left the room, walked into the next room, and we heard this, and I sat and looked around because it sounded like it went through the whole house, and yet it was still right next to me. And I turned around and looked in her direction in the next room, and I said, "Was that you?" And she said, "I was hoping it was you." And then we hardly talked about it. She still doesn't like to talk about it. But I felt that it was my husband because he knew that I always wanted to be closer to my daughter. And maybe that time he took advantage of that moment, I don't know. But then my father passed away the same year, and they sent my mother to live with me. And she was in her 90s. And she and I are sitting at the kitchen table, who I was never close with. I was close with her, but she was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast. And we were talking, and we heard the same, and we looked at each other. She had this deer in the headlights look in her face. And I said, "Mom, relax, that's Bob." Because he used to call her the Wicked Witch of the West. And as a joke. I mean, he really cared about her. But I said, Mom, that was Bobby. And he's letting us know that he's happy that you're here with me, and everything's fine. But I will tell you that sound went through the whole house again. And it was in like he was right on my ear.
And, it's very interesting that a lot of those audible EVPs that you can hear with your own ear, they're almost directionless. They're everywhere and they're nowhere all at the same time. They're very difficult to pinpoint.
Okay, gotcha. Hold it right there. We've got a final break, and then more. Dark Matter, you're on the air.
Hi, this is Mark from Parma, Ohio. How you doing, Art?
I'm just fine, Mark. How are you?
I'm enjoying the show immensely, and currently I'm in Gary, Indiana, because I do drive a truck, and thanks for the shout-out there for driving an 18-wheeler. My comment was I was out at a log cabin with my wife, and we had built a fire out in the back, and I started taking pictures of the fire. And I had seen the movie White Noise, and I thought, wouldn't it be interesting if old Indian spirits would come through the fire and show their faces or something like that? So since then, I've been taking lots of pictures of fire. Now, I can't say that I've ever seen any clear faces or anything like that, but I was just wondering if the guys had ever thought about trying something like that, like setting up a flame and using a camera with a high shutter speed to see if they can catch any still images.
Yeah, actually, it's a really cool question. In other words, that's a visual version of EVP.
No, it is, but here's the problem, and we've talked about this before, the subjective nature of EVP. When you do something like that, you're getting into what's called pareidolia. It's when you look at clouds and you make faces that, you see a bunny in a cloud. It's the same kind of thing. So, yes, there could definitely be something there. I'm not going to discount it and say there isn't. But at the same time, from our perspective, what makes our EVP work is when it's contextual. I mean, it responds to us, or it's contemporary, or it means something.
I'm with you all the way. To me, even though the content of the EVPs is subjective, there's nothing subjective from my point of view about what we're hearing. I know what it is. Truck 2086 says people are so desperate to believe in something, we'll just grasp onto anything and hold on to it as the absolute truth. In other words, you've got a real skeptic there.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd say after listening to all this, if you're still skeptical, then you weren't listening. Hello there. You're on the air. Dark Matter with GIS.
Hello, Art.
Yes.
I got to start by saying I'm highly skeptical of ghosts and everything. But with that said, my fiance moved into my house here 4 months ago. My mother died last year. Now, she says that, she was sitting at the computer one day and something blew in her face. And that's happened on 2 occasions. But she come home from work one day and heard yelling inside the house. And as soon as she walked in, it stopped. But other times she says she's actually talked to ghosts.
I love it when somebody calls up and says, I'm highly skeptical of anything, any kind of ghost stuff, and then tells us a ghost story.
Exactly. That's how I was going to answer it. I'm highly skeptical, but there is always a but. It's like,
I think it's good too. I think it's good to kind of walk that line. In order to be willing to believe, you've also got to be willing to not believe. You've got to get that kind of that barometer, like right there in the middle.
Exactly. And I mean, I know that better than anybody because I've been doing this for how long, and I still not sure I believe how.
Well, your barometer's more towards I don't believe, but yeah.
Yeah.
I really think what we've heard tonight is really good evidence of something that just is very disturbing. And I don't know what it is, but it's certainly disturbing. Listen, guys, do you have the website? Do you have a website up? You do, right?
Yes. Yeah. We've got,
what is it?
We've got each one. We've got ghostpix.com, GHOSTPIX.com.
Lots of EVPs there. That you can also go to jimmychunga.com. You can follow us on Twitter, DJ Jimmy Chunga, the Deviant Cook on Twitter, and we're constantly talking about things going on with regard to investigating and the paranormal.
All right. Well, I want to thank both of you for being here tonight. You're leaving the lines completely full. I'm sorry we're doing that. For those of you on hold, I'm sorry. So, gentlemen, thank you.
Thank you. Have us back.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, we definitely
We'll take more
will.
calls.
All right, later. Yeah, we've got calls and calls and calls and calls. All right, everybody, take care. It has been kind of spooky, frankly. Really spooky. And I was glad to be able to present it to you with the clarity of satellite radio. Now, I don't know if that served you to be more informed, or perhaps a little more scared than you were previously, but it is clear. Don't forget, we've got the Arts Parts. That's coffee mugs, T-shirts, that kind of thing. Just got its start the other day, but it's at artbell.com. Once again, it's called Arts Parts, and it's at artbell.com. Between now and tomorrow, I hope you all recover and have a great night. It's been my pleasure. Ciao.